cigarette trade, illicit mining, and now the ever-increasing, illicit trade in alcohol, the ever-increasing illicit alcohol market. We are told this market has ballooned to a staggering 25.1 billion rand. 25.1 billion rand is the size of the illicit alcohol market, is what we are told, with illegal drinks now accounting for some 18% of all alcohol sold in the country. So that's really significant growth. In fact, a recent study by Euromonitor International reveals that the underground trade of alcohol has surged by some 55% since 2017, outpacing the legal market and draining about 16.5 billion rand in tax revenue. So that's how much we are losing. That's how much we lost in 2024 alone from the illicit trade in alcohol. So we'll have two takes on that story. It's a story we covered and touched upon some time ago, but we'll have two takes on it again this morning. At about 6:45, we will talk to the anti-crime activist Yusuf Abramji. He's always in the mix when some of these raids are being undertaken by law enforcement. So we'll speak to Yusuf about it, and he monitors the trends. But also we'll have a discussion with Dr. Shamal Ramesa of the Drinks Federation of South Africa, where Dr. Shamal is the head of research. And that conversation will be coming up at about 7:20. Pay back the money. Remember that. Pay back the money may just be the mantle that the South African Social Security Agency has picked up in relation to certain social grant beneficiaries who are in some kind of employment while receiving grants at the same time. Reports suggest that as part of its massive beneficiary verification undertaking, the agency has been demanding that working beneficiaries who have breached the income threshold must reimburse SASSA the money that they have received thus far. So, there's a threshold means test that SASSA undertakes. And as long as you stay beneath that threshold, and it differs for different types of grants. So if you stay below that threshold, you'll be fine. But if you breach that, SASSA is in the process of verifying income details because it believes that more than 200,000 beneficiaries have income that they've not declared. And according to reports, some of those that have been identified who have that income that has breached the threshold are being asked to pay back the money. So as I told you, the target is some 200,000, in fact, more than 200,000 beneficiaries, which includes them reporting in person so that they can be verified at SASSA offices, as well as cross-referencing against other databases such as your credit bureaus as well as SARS. But as usual, there's a great deal of concern that the process may be placing an undue burden on especially rural beneficiaries and just introducing costs of transport to get to a SASSA office, for example. So we'll speak to Paseka Letsatsi, who will talk to us on behalf of SASSA, and that conversation will be coming up at about 7:50. And lastly, if you live in the country's main cities, you will have noticed the huge increase in the number of motorcycles on our roads in the last few years. Part of the explosive growth of the country's e-commerce sector and the convenience, really, of deliveries and motorbike deliveries just ballooning over the last few years. But have you also noticed the number of crashes involving these motorbikes? Have you wondered about the licensing status of some of the delivery bike riders? Well, we are told that behind the convenience of fast deliveries is a grim and underreported reality. Delivery riders are being sent onto dangerous roads with inadequate training, poor safety gear, and little regulatory oversight. In fact, some organizations are starting to raise this as an issue that should be attended to urgently. So at about 8:20 in the third hour of the show, we'll be in conversation with Xolani Fihla of the Johannesburg Metro Police Department. So that's some of what we will cover in the next 3 hours. The full bench of the Morning Brief team is ready, able, and willing to serve you once again this morning with your essential updates throughout the morning. And Musa has your news covered. Rob Byrne confirms he has your traffic updates. Zaikan confirms your sports. Melissa Puta has your morning brief in brief, and that's coming up shortly. Dauleng Lechela, always right on the money with your economics, business, and market updates. And Mo Africa Sipho Mantula with your Africa update at about 20 to 7 this morning. Be a part of the conversation. Give me a call. The number is 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes if you send them to 061 410 4107. On social media, we are at SAFM Radio on X. We are SAFM Radio on Facebook and Instagram. And as always, we are live on our YouTube channel, and that is SAFM Radio. So what are we waiting for? Let's get the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief underway.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Kicking us off, as always, is Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief. Melissa, good morning. So there was these two motions of no confidence in the last few days in the city of Johannesburg. The one against the mayor didn't succeed, but the one against the speaker of council was carried. Tell me about the processes that are now ensuing.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. The Johannesburg City Council will meet today to elect a new speaker following the removal of Action SA's Nobuhle Mthembu in a no-confidence vote. The ANC-led government of local unity is backing AIC Councillor Margaret Arnold, who currently serves as MMC of Finance. Action SA, led by Herman Mashaba, will be abstaining from the vote and not field a candidate. Meanwhile, the DA is expected to field a candidate but has not yet revealed who. A total of 136 votes is needed to elect a new speaker.
And this story is just bizarre, isn't it? Coming out of Cape Town, I think it's called Maitland, that area. All this lady wanted to do was to buy herself a car. Little did she know that by doing that, she would end up being a topic of national discussion.
Yes, this was a sad one indeed. Ms. Sonia Boshoff, chairperson of the Select Committee of Economic Development and Trade, has condemned the reported mistreatment of a cashier at a Cape Town filling station. The cashier resigned after being subjected to invasive questioning and demands for bank statements by her employer following the purchase of a second-hand car. Boshoff called the conduct demeaning and potentially racially discriminatory, urging the Department of Employment and Labour to investigate the workplace. She emphasized the need for dignity, fairness, and respect in employment, stating that such actions violate constitutional values and must be urgently addressed.
Yeah, her boss asking her how is she able to afford, to buy a car, and we're told going through the employee's bank statement, and we've seen that pushback, especially on social media. Talk to me about what's happening at School Waterkloof. This is one of those elite schools in Pretoria, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and this is quite a shocking story, but one that we should follow quite closely. Over 1,000 parents at School Waterkloof are standing by Principal Chris Dennis Chen, despite serious misconduct allegations, including claims of grooming and witness interference. Dennis Chen, currently under investigation and transferred to the Tshwane South District Office, denies any wrongdoing. Supporters highlight the school's academic success and criticize the disciplinary process as unfair and prolonged. The Gauteng Education Department insists that the transfer was necessary to protect the integrity of the investigation, which involves sensitive complaints and references to child protection laws. No formal criminal charges have been laid as yet.
Lastly, Melissa, the National Prosecuting Authority is not taking this High Court decision around Moradi Cholota lying down.
Yes, so the NPA is taking its case to the Supreme Court of Appeal to overturn a ruling that allowed Moradi Cholota, former assistant to Ace Makashile, to walk free on a technicality. Cholota was a key figure in the over 200 million asbestos corruption case, but avoided trial after the court found her extradition from the U.S. was improperly handled by the NPA instead of Justice Minister. The NPA argues the judge erred in dismissing its appeal and maintains there are strong grounds for further legal review. The main trial against Makashile and others resumes in January. So this will be an interesting one to see how the tides may turn or not in this case.
At the heart of it all, Section 106, subsection 1 of the Criminal Procedure Act, one of the pleas there being that the accused may plead that the court has no jurisdiction to try them. Thank you for that, Melissa. That's Melissa Puta there with your morning brief in brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
Let me give you a sense of how your weather will be looking on this Thursday. There are 3 warnings that have come through from the South African Weather Service. The first one is a yellow level 4 warning. It says disruptive rainfall leading to flooding of roads and danger to life due to fast-flowing streams over low-lying bridges. Those conditions are expected over the western parts of the Western Cape. Then there's a yellow level 1 warning. It says damaging winds leading to localized damage to settlements, both formal and informal, as well as risk of localized runaway fires. That is expected over the extreme southwestern parts of the northwest, extreme southeastern parts of the Northern Cape, and the western parts of the Free State. Lastly, a yellow level 1 warning. It says severe thunderstorms with large amounts of small hail, damaging winds, and excessive lightning leading to localized damage to settlements, falling trees, flying debris. Those conditions are expected in places over the northern parts of the Eastern Cape. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria will be cloudy with a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 20. Johannesburg, cloudy, 6 to 19. Mbombela will be fine with a minimum of 7 and a maximum of 23. Polokwane, partly cloudy, 7 to 20. Mahikeng, partly cloudy and windy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 9 to 22. Bloemfontein will be cloudy and windy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 6 to 19. Kimberley, partly cloudy and windy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 10 to 20. Uppington will be partly cloudy and windy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 9 to 16. Cape Town will be cloudy with widespread showers and rain, 12 to 14. George will be cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 12 to 18. Gqeberha, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 16 to 21. East London will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 13 to 24. Durban will be fine with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 25. Richards Bay fine, 15 to 28. And finally, Pietermaritzburg fine, 3 to 24.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
So 2 significant yet contrasting developments in Russia's war on Ukraine in the last 48 hours. While Ukraine has launched one of its deepest drone strikes into Russian territory since the war began, Kyiv has also suffered something of a setback, with the United States announcing that it will cut off some weapons deliveries to Ukraine, a decision said to have been taken to, quote-unquote, put America's interests first. On the battlefront, the Ukrainian strike hit a military factory in Izhevsk, more than 1,000 kilometers from the border, killing 3 people and injuring 45. But no sooner had that attack been launched that Kyiv learned of the U.S. decision, which is expected to affect some key weapon items that Ukraine needs to defend itself against near-nightly Russian airstrikes, believed to include Patriot interceptors, howitzer munitions, missiles, and grenade launchers. So let's speak to Professor Abel Esterhazy, who is a member of the Department of Strategic Studies in the Faculty of Military Science at Stellenbosch University. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time once again. What do we read into Ukraine's increasing reliance on and battlefield innovations around these drones? It comes, just last month we had that one that was undertaken through infiltration of drones on a lorry, and that one was called Operation Spiderweb, and it targeted Russian air bases.
Yeah, I think we see quite a lot of innovation, and at a tactical level, Ukraine is actually doing quite well. They're doing quite good in the war. We've also seen Ukraine last week destroying quite a number of U.S. aircraft with at a nearby airbase. So at a tactical level, the Ukraine is actually doing quite well. But it seems as if the United States have given up on Ukraine. It seems as if the United States have sort of accepted that Russia is going to take Ukraine, and the United States have, in a way, walked away from Ukraine. So I think that at a strategic level seems to be a reality. But there's two other issues here. The one is Putin, for the first time, speaking yesterday about the Russian economy, and the Russian economy seems to be in a really, really, really bad state at the moment. They're really struggling. I think that's the first question, or the first issue. The other issue is to what extent Europe will step up to the plate and fill the gap in Ukraine that's been left by the United States and the departure of the United States. And I think those are the two critical strategic questions with the United States out of the question.
Just in terms of what's happening on the battlefront, how crucial are these weapons systems in what we are reporting as near nightly air raids by Russia into Ukraine? We're talking Patriot interceptors, some of these weapons that are carried as F-16 fighter jets, also to intercept incoming missiles, ballistic missiles.
Yeah, that's an important part of what the United States have supplied to Ukraine, because they have supplied Patriot missiles to do the air defense. The air defense is not so much air-based; it's continental-based, and it's predominantly coming from the Patriot missile system that's supplied by the United States. So the departure of the United States will leave a huge gap, and it will leave Ukraine vulnerable. But as I said, the question is to what extent Europe will step up to the plate. And then one shouldn't forget there's increasing cooperation, it seems, behind the scenes between Israel and Ukraine. And one have seen that you only need to draw the parallels between the intelligence operation that was required for the drone attack into Russia, the well-known drone attack into Russia, and what the Israelis have done in Iran. So there's quite a cooperation between the Israelis and Ukraine, and I think there may be some help from that environment as well.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's Professor Abel Esterhazy, who is a member of the Department of Strategic Studies in the Faculty of Military Science at Stellenbosch University.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you, Zai. 3 captains in 3 matches for the Proteas in Bulawayo, yeah?
First, it was Captain Themba Bavuma, the brave. Then we had Keshav Maharaj, the calm. Yeah. And now we've got a wunderkind by the name of Jan Mulder.
I like that, wunderkind.
I don't know what's going to happen. But listen, it feels a little bit like speed dating. Nevertheless, 3rd test captain in a row as we get into the 2nd and final test against Zimbabwe happening this Sunday in Bulawayo. It will be Jan Mulder stepping in after Keshav Maharaj ruled out with a groin strain he picked up while batting. Now, he captained the Proteas to that 328-run win in the first test. He returns home for further scans. All-rounder Sanurin Muthusamy has been called up as his replacement, while fast bowler Lungi Ngidi has been released from the squad to allow the current seamers more game time. Soccer, SASSA has confirmed that their sponsorship agreement with the South African Football Association has not been renewed. According to the statement released, their agreement with SAFA, which included support for Banyana Banyana and the SASSA League, came to an end on the 30th of June. Banyana are currently in Morocco, where they are preparing for their opening match of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations that happens against Ghana on Monday. Elsewhere, João Pedro has joined Chelsea from Brighton to continue the Premier League club's lavish spending under American owners Todd Boehly and Clearlake Capital. The Brazil forward cost a reported $82 million and has signed a contract through to 2023. Rugby, we've got the second round action of the Under-16 Grand Como Week in Pretoria. Western Province continuing their winning streak, while the Blue Bulls and Sharks played to a 29-29 draw. Tennis, Cameron Norrie produced one of the best performances of his career. He fought back to beat Francis Tiafoe 4-6, 6-4, 6-3, 7-5 at Wimbledon. And his compatriot Sunay Kartal progressed. The former British number 3, she saw off Bulgaria's Victoria Tomova 6-2, 6-2. The world number 1, Arina Sabalenka, had a hard-fought victory over Marie Buskova 7-6, 6-4. And Madison Keys, the American, she had a comfortable 6-4, 6-2 win over Serbia's Olga Danilovic. Fellow Russians Andrei Rublev and Karen Khachanov survived tough tests to book their spot in Wimbledon's third round. Rublev coming from behind to beat South Africa's Lloyd Harris 6-7, 6-4, 7-6, 6-3. And finally, cycling, Remco Evenepoel played down his chances of challenging Tadej Pogačar and Jonas Vingegaard for the Tour de France yellow jersey, as he and his Sodal Quickstep teammates look ahead to cycling's greatest race.
No, I think it's going to be more hectic, of course, the way all the sprinters are looking forward to the first few days, and a couple of stages in the first week is going to be completely different than last year. Am I looking forward to it? No, but I have to do it. So I think for us it's going to be already an important day on Saturday with Tim. So we just try to survive, as everybody will try, and then at the end of the week we will see who got out of the battlefield without any scratches and injuries.
We'll be pedaling back with more sport. Top of the hour, I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musan. The headlines: the National Prosecuting Authority has filed a petition with the Supreme Court of Appeal to challenge the Free State High Court ruling on Murwadi Cholota's jurisdiction plea. Last month, Judge Philip Lopsher ruled the extradition of the former personal assistant to former Free State Premier Ace Magashule in the multi-million rand asbestos corruption case was unlawful. Human Settlements Minister Thulasizwe Simelane has lashed out at political parties who did not support the budget vote for her department. They've cited allegations of corruption and fraud as the reason for not supporting the budget vote. And the South African Weather Service has issued a yellow level 4 warning for disruptive rainfall across the Western Cape from today into the weekend. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Big delays on the southern side of Joburg. Heavy backlogs this morning on the R59 up towards the R550 Heidelberg Road exit. Some roadworks. There may be something else going on there, but that's a very heavy delay just north of Mayot at about 20-minute queue time to work through that and growing. Then a stationary vehicle further up the R59 on the link to the N12 Reading interchange. A link to the off the R59 north onto the N12 east. So that's the big volume side, and that's heavy. And then a collision up between Heldenace and Van Buren on the N3. So coming out of Alberton and Germiston, very heavy backlogging going on there already as well. The N1, that's slow from Bruckfontein down to Olifantsfontein Road at this stage. Durban, not a bad run through the traffic at this hour. A little bit of pressure though on the N2 coming southbound. The first of today's breakdowns between Mgena Road and Spaghetti Junction is there just around Clare Road Bridge. So a bit of pressure on that run through. And Cape Town, wet weather condition. The first of a series of frontal systems has arrived into the Cape Town region, the greater Cape Town area, so wet conditions for the drive to work. The rain expected to get heavier through the morning as well, so just make sure you've got extra time to get through safely and watch for a crash. It's being described as quite a big one. N7 North going up to Malabongwe passing Dunoon. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Good morning to you, Ndauling. For the first update of the morning, let's start with news between the US and Vietnam. As we get closer to that end of that 90-day pause on the so-called Liberation Day tariffs, more and more countries coming to the fore. We're hearing of deals being announced, the latest US and Vietnam.
That's right, Tula. So some good news coming through as both nations confirmed that they've reached a trade deal. According to the agreement, the US will impose a 20% tariff on Vietnamese exports, lower than the previously proposed 46%. In return, Vietnam will grant the US total access to its markets, allowing American products to be sold in the country with zero tariffs, which could particularly benefit US industries like large engine vehicles. Now, the deal also includes a provision for goods transshipped through Vietnam from other countries to face a steeper 40% tariff. This is aimed at preventing Chinese manufacturers from bypassing US tariffs. Now, Vietnam is the US's 10th biggest trading partner. And so the deal is seen as a political win for President Trump, who has been working to strengthen ties with the country. Now, as that July 9th deadline approaches, Trump's administration has hinted at a potential trade deal with India, while earlier agreements with the UK and China were limited in terms of detail. Meanwhile, negotiations with Japan, a key trading partner, have stalled. On the local front, SA recently announced that they may need to revise their proposed framework deal with the US following Washington's plans to introduce a standardized trade engagement template for sub-Saharan Africa.
Donald Trump has us right where he wants us, right?
Right where he wants us.
And I suppose those countries that don't have a deal yet may be hoping that the nickname that he has been given on Wall Street, I believe, will be true. Taco. Trump always chickens out, and they'll be hoping that that becomes the reality.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Microsoft and Ndauling and the announcement of another round of job cuts.
Another round, of course, Thulas. This is not the first time Microsoft has announced the layoffs this year, having already cut over 6,000 jobs in May and at least 300 more in June, with additional performance-based layoffs in January. This time around, it plans to cut about 9,000 jobs, accounting for about 4% of its global workforce. The move is part of Microsoft's ongoing restructuring efforts to position itself, it says, for success in a rapidly changing market. The job cuts will affect various teams and geographies and levels of experience within the company, including the Xbox gaming division. Now, despite these workforce reductions, Microsoft reported strong financial results for the March quarter, with $26 billion in net income and $70 billion in revenue. Now, the group says it's prioritizing investments in AI, cloud infrastructure, and also allocating resources to support growth in those areas. Analysts, however, have raised concerns, saying the repeated cuts may impact employee morale and create uncertainty about job security within the company.
Yeah, by the way, just touching on that Taco Trump nickname, Ndauling, apparently he really, really hates that name.
I've heard from analysts that he hates it.
For someone who gives people nicknames on a daily basis, I would have thought he would be okay with, being given one back. Lastly, Ndauling, how are the markets looking?
So reflecting on markets action, U.S. stocks closed mixed overnight following disappointing private sector jobs data. ADP figures there showed that the private sector shed about 33,000 jobs last month. This is the first negative month in more than 2 years. And with that, we saw the Dow Jones closing lower, down 0.02%. Over on the JSE, local markets in the red, with the all share down 0.33%. A stable showing from the currency scene, though, with the rand at 17.60 to the dollar this morning. Then lastly, in Asia, trade mostly in the green. Yeah, trade mostly in the green, but uncertainty remains as traders are cautious ahead of that deadline, that July 9th deadline set by President Trump for reaching trade deals with its partner countries.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauling Lechela with the first update of the morning. Look out for more insights from her in the second hour, just after 7:30.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning. We start in Somalia, in Mogadishu. And you know how the brain works, not to make light of this situation, but you know how the brain works. The moment you hear military helicopter crash Mogadishu, you think Black Hawk down. But this was nothing like that, was it?
Absolutely, Thulas. Refreshing morning and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Thulas, yesterday the African Union military helicopter, which comes from the Ugandan Air Force, crashed and caught fire at the Aden Ade International Airport in Mogadishu, killing at least 5 people. And this is the report coming from Somalian authorities. Thulas, that happened yesterday morning around the hours of 7:30. And this is very sad, looking at how the AU mission that has been dealing with the conflicts in Somalia. We have 11,000 troops who are made out from Uganda and Kenya. They are the ones who have now experienced, casualties with this crash that happened in Mogadishu. But all the flights are back to us in the international airport of Aden Ade in Somalia.
And news out of Lome in Togo. Tell me about the protests there. You're saying that they're described as being violent.
This comes from the ECOWAS. ECOWAS expressed concern, and this comes, as you recall, last month we did touch on the protest that is going on in ECOWAS around the high cost of living, concentration of power in the hands of the current sitting President Ganside. And also when you look at ECOWAS, it's looking at the issue of that they will favor dialogue rather than engagement in the street. And this came out yesterday, both in French and English, to us, reminding the ordinary people in Togo that they need to engage on a dialogue and they need to look at the issues of political transition. Remember, the sitting president wants to sit in power just like his father. He has been in power for almost 20 years. Now, that's what is the cause and the trigger of this conflict in Lome, and hence ECOWAS has raised the red flag.
And news coming out of the United States, Sipho, that has an impact on Africans in the diaspora, specifically Haiti. Tell me about this system called temporary protected status. Why is it in center stage in as far as Haitians are concerned?
Chula, this has been in the center stage and it has created anxiety. Despite that, there's a relief from the courts now that have blocked Trump to can deport them. This came in 2010, Chula, when there was an earthquake that Barack Obama extended this humanitarian designation to people who have suffered from armed conflict, natural disasters, or what they call extraordinary or temporary conditions that make them to return home unsafe. And Biden went on it to us around when he came into power in 2021 also and extended it to 2026. Now the Trump administration was aiming to end it on the 2nd of September in 2025. Hence, the court has blocked it, but there is still anxiety amongst 500,000 Haitians who are still trapped in the U.S. And if you recall, Tulas, we've been touching on the gang violence in that island, where you have 1.3 million people who are scattered across the island.
And in the historical archive, Sipho, you want to open the page to the 3rd of July, 1990. What happened on this day?
Tulas, it's almost 35 years, and it will be an injustice for us not to remember this black consciousness philosopher, the orator, the legal mind, Muntu Mieza. Born in KZN, moved into Soweto in Orlando West, Waterkloof, almost 35 years ago, Tulas. When we talk about Muntu Mieza, others they call him Inyelosi Yomhlaba, an angel of earth, Tulas, because of the work he was doing in the black consciousness movement. He died coming from a job interview, Tulas, allegedly a job interview from Bloemfontein on this day, and there are many commemorative events that are planned in Soweto by the Black Consciousness Movement to us, just to remember this gallant Black Consciousness leader who has questioned many things to us. And I think if I had time, I will have shared his views about the national dialogue, the talks about the talks, seminars, conventions. He has put them as something like the sleeky cocktail parties that are in a comfort suburbia, endless seminars, symposium in high-rise, rarefied atmosphere of the so-called island of peace. That is Mundumela to us, that the change that he wanted before he was assassinated, he raised many issues. And you will recall that he was a very close friend of many Black Consciousness movement who were incarcerated in Robben Island. So he was a freedom fighter, he was a Black Consciousness leader, was a legal mind, and it's 35 years later, we remember this gallant son of the soil. Asante sana Thulas, as I said in the conversation, SAFM observing the International Mandela Month and the Day of Muntu Nyeza.
All right,
Ingelosi
Yomhlaba. Thank you for that, Sipho. Really appreciate how you weave in the various strands of our history and the traditions, particularly of the struggle against apartheid. That's Sipho Mandula there with your Africa update for today.
Nelson Mandela once said, "There can be no greater gift than that of giving one's time and energy to helping others without expecting anything in return."
What's your Mandela Day game plan this year? Why not lace up those sneakers and hit the ground running at our annual Mandela Day Walk and Run on July 19th at the DP World Wanderers Stadium, Ilovo. You can walk 5Ks, run 10 and 21Ks, and still have enough energy to have fun. It's a whirlwind of fun and laughter, all for a fantastic cause. Every cent goes to support the excellent work of the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Enter on mandeladay.com or register for the virtual race on fundnation.org/Nelson Mandela. See you there.
We are woven into the same soil that shapes South Africa. Its dreams, its energy, its promise. These guide us. Together we've built progress, hand in hand, from the mines to bustling main streets, from one generation to the next. With communities, government and partners, every initiative from healthcare to education, youth empowerment to entrepreneurship lights the way forward. Because we don't just mine minerals, we mine possibility and progress with purpose. Together, we're shaping what's next. Mining potential, building beyond. Anglo-American.
My name is Donatemba Mhlongo. I play as a defender. When I'm at camp with Banyana, I don't have friends, I have teammates. If Banyana scored 3 goals against Ghana, I will sing Pambilingeo, Pambilingisemwe, Pambilingeo, Pambilingeo. I will sing that.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
Indeed, we are. There I go, trying to get ahead of myself. We are streaming live on Facebook and, with updates also on X. That's where you can catch us, as well as on YouTube. The country is facing a deepening crisis as the illicit alcohol trade surges, with authorities uncovering vast counterfeit networks and fake booze flooding the market. Recent police raids have exposed high-value syndicates manufacturing and distributing dangerous counterfeit alcohol, prompting warnings from health experts, law enforcement, and industry leaders. Let's speak to Yusuf Abramji. He's always at the forefront, especially of those raids and the operations to try and crack down on some of these syndicates. He joins us now on the line, anti-crime activist. Good morning to you, Yusuf. So it's one thing to read the stats, right, and the reports on this phenomenon that is growing, that we're told is growing, but it's quite another to encounter it on the coal face. What does it look like on the coal face? What are we dealing with here?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Most certainly, it's a massive problem. I think, firstly, Tax Justice South Africa, the NGO that I founded, obviously welcomes the police action. There needs to be more raids, and these people need to be brought to book. Now, we know that SARS, for example, estimates that the illicit alcohol trade is causing a loss in revenue of about 11 billion rand every year. And we know there's international studies and regional studies that shows that that amount runs into billions of rands. And this illicit alcohol trade, Thulasizwe, is completely unregulated. And apart from the massive revenue losses, it does lead to numerous social issues. And these include, for example, the problems with underage drinking, excessive consumption of cheap alcohol. And these criminals are making money by the day. Added to the problem, as we often speak about, is the illicit cigarette trade. And that again shows it's growing by the day, and that is also running into billions of rands, and it's money lost to the fiscus, where the country needs the money. These criminals are pocketing all this money.
What do we know about the modus operandi, Yusuf? What does it look like? What do they do when we say there are syndicates manufacturing and distributing? What does that look like?
Well, it's somebody in their backyard, or they hire a small little place. They sell this dodgy alcohol that potentially contains fatal ingredients. And we know there have been a number of deaths over the past year for people consuming different food products. It's completely unregulated, and criminals don't care because they're selling these products for as long as they can make money. And we know, for example, I don't have to tell you, that this money is supposed to be going for vital services like schools, like hospitals, like housing. And that is why we see the clampdown from this particular industry, which is massive. Just last week, I accompanied the police's illicit trade and counterfeit unit on a raid in Johannesburg, and we went to Dragon City, where the focus was, for example, on electrical items and appliances. And there again, they confiscated millions and millions of rands of these appliances. We've been saying for a very long time as Tax Justice, what is government waiting for when we forget the alcohol industry for a moment, you take the cigarette industry. There again, the illicit cigarettes are flooding this market. They are being openly sold for far less than the minimum collectible tax on a pack of 20 cigarettes, which is about 26 rand with VAT. They sold for 10 rand, 12 rand, and we know that the smuggling of these products from especially Zimbabwe into South Africa through our porous borders is a growing problem. And despite some breakthroughs and arrests here and there, the kingpins are not being arrested. I mean, take the gold mafia that was exposed about 2 years ago. Up to today, not a single arrest has been made. And what does it tell you? It shows there's no political will to fight the scourge. There's very little political will, and the law enforcement agencies are simply not getting their act together.
All right, Yusuf, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's Yusuf Abramji, who is an anti-crime activist, unpacking this phenomenon of illicit alcohol that we are told is growing in our economy.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
We're trying to get an update on the situation that will unfold today at N1 South Pretoria around Linwood Road. There was originally a 2-day schedule of roadworks. Yesterday we saw motorists stuck there for 2 hours coming through from Stormville into a closure at Linwood. Now, we spoke to a SANRAL agency, iTraffic, yesterday. They said it's postponed. We did see a message floating around saying it's postponed, but it referred to Rigel Avenue instead of Linwood. And we've just spoken to TMPD, the Tshwane Metro Police, and they say it will go ahead, but they said, oh, hang on, let us check that. So we'll just stay with us this morning. We'll give you the information about N1 South and what's expected at Linwood today, because it's vital information. You don't want to come down that highway and be stuck for 2 hours on another day, following up from yesterday. So we'll confirm that as soon as we possibly can. Massive delays coming off the Vaal area this morning. R59 queuing heavily, passing around Vaal up towards the 550, the Heidelberg Road exit. If you're on the sort of Meyerton, Vereeniging side, I would seriously consider a trip up the R82 via Walkerville and go to Joburg that way. You'll also avoid the R59 further up at Reading Interchange. That's a broken down vehicle as you link through the interchange onto the N12. Delays there. And coming out of Alberton and Germiston, another very heavy run through towards Galulis with a crash near Van Buren Road. Durban, a breakdown heading into Spaghetti Junction. That's been cleared. Northbound coming up from the M7 into Spaghetti Junction. That's pretty heavy as it normally is for this time of day. way. And Cape Town, the N1 inbound, very slow towards the Coburg interchange, and a crash on the N7 north opposite Dunoon. Quite a bad one. The left lane is closed. You'll be funneled into the right lane to get past that scene. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
We plan for vacations, retirement, and even tonight's dinner. But do we plan for our health? It's how we protect our family's future. So who are you staying healthy for? And how can you protect their future? Choose Dis-Chem Life, the life cover that helps you live a healthier, more rewarding life with health checks and extra rewards. Visit dischemlife.co.za now. Dis-Chem Life. Choose a better partner for life. Dis-Chem Life is an authorized FSP 50594, underwritten by Guard Risk Life, a licensed life insurer, FSP 76. T's and C's apply.
We are woven into the same soil that shapes South Africa. Its dreams, its energy, its promise. These guide us. Together we've built progress, hand in hand, from the mines to bustling main streets, from one generation to the next. With communities, government and partners, every initiative, from healthcare to education, youth empowerment to entrepreneurship, lights the way forward. Because we don't just mine minerals, we mine possibility and progress with purpose. Together, we're shaping what's next. Mining potential, building beyond. Anglo-American.
The Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, under the banner of the Fantuka Af Living Legends Recognition Series, will host a tribute concert in honor of Mama Abigail Gupega, celebrating her 68 years of excellence in the South African music industry. Taking place on Saturday, the 5th of July 2025 at 6 p.m. at the State Theatre in Pretoria, featuring over 25 legendary performers such as Yvonne Chaka Chaka, Faith Kekana, Mandisa Dlanga, Kanyoma Pumulo, Sipho Hotsticks Mabuse, Makoy Mkhubata, amongst others. Tickets are available at Web Tickets and Pick n Pay. Get your tickets now. The Abigail Gupega tribute concert is supported by SABC Radio.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
5 minutes to 7. The Labour Party of South Africa has launched a legal challenge against President Cyril Ramaphosa's proposed national dialogue, denouncing it as unconstitutional, fiscally irresponsible, and an elitist bypass of democratic institutions. The party argues that the dialogue, whose unofficial and disputed budget estimate hovers around the 700 million rand mark, is an unnecessary duplication of existing platforms like Parliament and NEDLAC, and serves to entrench elite influence while sidelining working class voices. Let's speak to Joseph Matunjwa, who is the interim Labour Party president. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning, Mr. Matunjwa. So what are you asking the court to do in relation to the national dialogue?
Good morning to you and good morning to your listeners. Thank you again for the opportunity. Yes, is to interdict and stop this wasteful expenditure. And also, if this elite or the government or the president of the country wishes to address what is known to him, he should have referred back to the institution that is legitimate, of which it's a parliament that has got all legislative powers. That is what we want. I mean, why should you create a parallel structures while we've got already the budgeted institution, which is the parliament? Those 430 odd MPs, they are fully mandated. They've got all the manifestos that they've been crisscrossing the country last year. They know what the South African needs. What about the SONAs that the state president is always having every year, coming up with all promises, broken promises, and then he does knows what the people want. There's not even a single person in South Africa that does not know what we are suffering from. All these social ills that are facing the South African does not need a dialogue. It needs a proper leadership that can take decisive action against all these challenges that we are facing. It does not need any dialogue. That 700 or 800 million can be better utilized. Recently, we've got floods in Cape Town, so in Eastern Cape, of more than 200 people perished through these floods. Can't we use that money and build the dignity, the house for those families? Pit toilets. Our children fall into those pit toilets. Can we not eradicate using that money?
Right.
Building bridges in Eastern Cape.
Yeah.
Our children are still crossing rivers using drums.
Mr. Matunjwa, it is always important for me, at least on my part, to always emphasize that the presidency has disputed that budget of 700 million rand, but nevertheless, the point you are making is well understood. In as far as one of your avenues of attack against the national dialogue, you are labeling it as elitist, and you're saying it will sideline working class voices. Can you really say that at this stage without having seen how exactly it will unfold? For all you know, the Eminent Persons Group and the Preparatory Task Team could be preparing for, to have shop floor discussions in the mix in various forms and interactions that they are planning for. And for all you know, they could have an entire stream that will be dedicated to talking about labor rights, laws, practices, employment and unemployment.
We are not necessarily saying, when we say the working class, we're talking about people who are unemployed. It's not necessarily that we are saying we as organized labor. I mean, every person who is not employed in South Africa, when was that consultation took place? There was no consultation. It's something that they decided among themselves. And furthermore, you should be knowing that these NGOs are not neutral in this. These are the political actors backing this executive to defend a dialogue with no law and mandate and no budget approval. So, and the question is, all these, all these NGOs, who's funding them? What are they benefiting out of this, national dialogue? And furthermore, ironically, you dragged at the last hour, you dragged the Tutu Foundation in. The foundation of which himself, the late Babu Tutu, rejected ANC and said they are not representing him. And now, conveniently so, you bring those, big names, big foundations into this just to push an agenda that is not going to benefit South Africans.
All right, Mr. Matunjwa, let's leave it there for this morning. That is Joseph Matunjwa, who is the interim Labour Party president. Let's go straight to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
In our top stories, NPA petitions Supreme Court of Appeal regarding Cholota's extradition court outcome, and Simelane slams political parties that did not support her budget vote. Good morning. The National Prosecuting Authority has filed a petition with the Supreme Court of Appeal to challenge the Free State High Court ruling on Murwadi Cholota's jurisdiction plea. Last month, Judge Philip Lopsher ruled the extradition of the former personal assistant to former Free State Premier Ace Magashule in the multi-million rand asbestos corruption case was unlawful. Cholota was Magashule's personal assistant when the asbestos tender was allegedly illegally awarded in 2014. NPA spokesperson Mtunzi Maga says the NPA is also considering to approach the Constitutional Court.
The petition to the SCA follows after Globster J dismissed the NPA's request for the Honourable Judge to reserve questions of law in terms of Section 319 of the Criminal Procedure Act. We are of the firm view that the Honourable Judge erred in dismissing the application for leave to appeal, that there are reasonable prospects of success to appeal the Cholota judgment, and that there are compelling reasons for the SCA to hear the appeal. We are also exploring the possibility of approaching the Constitutional Court, challenging the same judgment in view of the possible far-reaching implications on many other extradition matters.
The Enyobeni Tavern inquest at the East London Regional Court sitting in Mdantsane in the Eastern Cape is continuing today, with tavern manager Siyakangela Ndevu expected to conclude his testimony. Ndevu, who was the only witness who testified yesterday, refused to take any responsibility for the deaths of 21 underage patrons at his establishment in June of 2022. This after evidence leader Advocate Luvuyo Vena put it to Ndevu that he failed as a manager to have necessary measures in place for the safety of patrons. In response, Ndevu repeatedly said his establishment became chaotic when patrons from a Penstown event forced their entry after midnight.
Bangena ngenkathi besenza i-overcrowding. Now the first time now
who was stopping them from entering, but they forced their entry. Now you want to blame me? You cannot.
Gauteng High Court Judge President Dustin Mlambo says his age could be used as an advantage to Chief Justice Mandisa Maya. This comes as interviews for the role are set to continue for a second day in Sandton in Johannesburg today. Judge President Mlambo is one of 3 candidates being interviewed by the Judicial Service Commission. He is currently 65 years old, meaning that if appointed, he would have to retire midway through the Chief Justice term. Having been questioned on the matter, Mlambo admits that the timing is not ideal, but says it could open the door for grooming the next Deputy Chief Justice before the Chief Justice herself steps down.
From a career development point of view, and this is me sort of advancing my case, it would serve the CJ quite well to have a candidate who would leave before her and bring in someone else as DCJ who can take over from her when she goes. I think it's a way of looking at it.
Human Settlements Minister Thembi Simelane has lashed out at political parties who did not support the budget vote for her department. They've cited allegations of corruption and fraud as the reason for not supporting the budget vote. 6 out of the 18 political parties represented in the National Assembly did not support the approval of the budget for the Human Settlement Department. These parties include the DA, EFF, MK Party and Action SA, among others. The DA has opened a case of corruption against the minister. Simelane has criticized the DA, saying there are many DA members who are alleged to have broken the law, including one who murdered her sister.
Go undergoing trial without charges. You are trying me in the public air because you think it's the only way to degrade the work that I'm doing. Let me remind the Democratic Alliance, one of your public representatives, and I know Honorable Kaukau, you don't know him, go and investigate him. A murderer alleged in my sister's case died under the Democratic Alliance, not charged. In 2016, when I had managed to place charges against him, it was only then that the DA suspended him. Even on my calls to get the DA to get a statement of murder against my sister, they didn't. In 2019, 3 years later, he died.
And finally, the South African Weather Service has issued a yellow level 4 warning for disruptive rainfall across the Western Cape from today into the weekend. The City of Cape Town's Disaster Risk Management Centre says they are ready to deal with the impact of the inclement weather. Disaster Risk Management spokesperson Charlotte Powell says NGO partners are also on standby to provide humanitarian assistance.
We ask that residents please address any issues on their properties to mitigate the risk of localized flooding. Also, please log service requests for any city-related services so that these can be assigned to the relevant departments.
Recapping the top story, the National Prosecuting Authority has filed a petition with the Supreme Court of Appeal to challenge the Free State High Court ruling on Murwadi Cholota's jurisdiction plea. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
Breaking news just in. Pinky, a 60-year-old woman, slashed 870 Rand a month off her car insurance premium. That's right. Pinky switched to Outsurance and now saves a mind-blowing 870 Rand a month on her 2020 Kia Seltos 1.6. Outsurance clients always get something out. Get a quote today and see how much Outsurance could save you on your car insurance. Call 08600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's rugby. Henry Pollard says the Springboks haven't hit their full throttle on attack yet. And in soccer news, Chelsea have signed 13-year-old South African Camden Shaper for a record 17 million rand fee. Yeah, all that coming up just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Major delays leaving the Vaal with heavy queues on the R59 up to the R550, the Heidelberg Road exit. That's sort of passing the Randvaal area. Might be worth, I would think, we're looking at exiting off the Vaal using the R82. Go out via Walkerville is your alternative route. You'll miss that Randvaal massive queue, and you'll also miss the delay up into the Reading interchange. There's a broken down truck inside the sort of R59 ramp off the northbound side onto the N12 East, and that's causing a big delay as well. Then a crash that you're driving into on the N12 N3 as you get up towards Van Buren Road. Also, the N1 leaving Soweto quite busy this morning. A crash before Gordon Road and a breakdown before you get to Bayers Nordeer. So that's a queue coming through from Gordon Road. Very slow on your way up towards Randburg. Eastern Cape side, protesting between East London and KWT. It's at Berlin. Burning tyres across both carriageways on that section of the N2. Durban's N2 North stationary from the M7 through Westwood Mall. That's a big early delay this morning. And Cape Town, the M1 into town, the busiest of the highway, sitting from Waterkloof Road through to Kubo, get a change. And a collision, N7 North before Malabongwe Drive, blocking the left lane. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
10 minutes after 7 on this Thursday, it is great to be in your company. We are into the second hour of the Morning Brief, and among some of what we will cover in this hour, we'll focus on healthcare, particularly the shortage of posts, the lack of recruitment of recently qualified doctors. That continues to be an issue. You'll remember that in the budget, we had 3 takes, right, at trying to deliver a budget this year. Eventually, we got a budget that was approved and went through Parliament and everything. There was provision, I think, for 1,200 doctor posts to be filled and some provision of money towards that. But I suppose it takes a while before that. There's a lag between the announcement and the reality. The reality as things stand is that a number of qualified doctors continue to be unemployed in provinces like KwaZulu-Natal. So in the next few minutes, I'll be speaking to Dr. Mvuyisi Mzukwa of the South African Medical Association, and we'll be touching base on that and the provinces that are affected and what really is the delay and hold up between the announcement of the minister and the reality of doctors in wards. That conversation is coming up in the next few minutes. Then we'll give you the second take around the issue of illicit alcohol, which we've told you that it has grown to an industry that's valued at about 25.1 billion rand. And that illegal drinks now account for about 18% of all alcohol sold in the country. And then that conversation we will have with Dr. Shamal Ramesar, and that's coming up at about 7:20. And of course, later on, we will be talking about the campaign that the South African Social Security Agency, SASSA, has been waging to try and verify beneficiaries, right? They told us that over 200,000 beneficiaries are in their crosshairs because they believe that one way or another they have income that is coming in that could perhaps be precluding them from benefiting from social grants. And we're told that in some instances, some beneficiaries have been told to hashtag pay back the money. Paseka Letsatsi will talk to me at about 10 to 8 this morning. Be a part of the conversation. Do engage on these and other matters that you may want to raise with me. I'm open to that engagement. And the number to dial, 086 000 2032. Please send me WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. Lots of ground to cover in this hour, so let's get started.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
All right, let's start with this story out of KwaZulu-Natal. As I told you, there was that announcement that came through earlier on that some 1.78 billion rand has been set aside for the employment of medical professionals across the country. This included, in terms of the announcement by the minister, 1,200 doctor posts that we were told were going to be filled. Let's get into it then. The Public Service Association has launched a renewed campaign of protest and mobilization demanding the immediate absorption of over 150 qualified but unemployed doctors into KwaZulu-Natal's public health system. This amid growing concerns over staff shortages, strained emergency services, and an unsustainable doctor-to-patient ratio. The PSA accuses the provincial government of neglecting both its medical graduates and the health rights of its citizens. So let's speak to Mzulungile Nodigida, who is the CEO of the South African Medical Association. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. So let's talk about the announcement. The announcement was made that, after many years of not really recruiting to the levels that were needed, that we were going to get 1,200 doctors that are now going to be funded and appointed. Have we seen any shift since the announcement was made?
Thank you very much and good morning to you, Tulas, and to your listeners. I must say that we have, Tulas, seen most provinces advertising posts, albeit not to the level that we would have loved, because as you would know, the country is really struggling when it comes to the doctor-patient ratio. But unfortunately, this has not been the case in KZN. There, up until I think last week, some announcement was made about 20 posts to be advertised, which is why we reached out to the province. I must say to us that at about 4:16 yesterday, we did receive a communication from the Office of the Premier saying that he would be willing to meet with SAMA on the 11th of July, and we're really looking forward to that meeting, and we hope we can maybe gain some ground and maybe understand what is the provincial plan at the person who is accountable for the province.
What's your sense? Is it a lack of political will, or does the explanation that says there have been budget cuts as advanced by the Health MEC Nomagugu Simelane, does that continue to hold in light of recent announcements?
Yeah, look, we don't want to speculate on what the Premier will say to us, but we do know that there are problems with budgeting, not at the provincial level, but at national. When national made the announcement, we don't know, because when we read between what this is hearsay. We're hoping the MC will be there to explain to us. It does look like they have not received almost like the funding for them to effect whatever number of posts that should have been allocated to them. But we need to get this on record, so that then when we go and sit with the Minister of Health, we then have an understanding what has been that, why do we have a delay? Because this is something that deals with people's lives.
Yeah. Is KwaZulu-Natal the only province of concern to you? Because I remember that the crisis was particularly pronounced not only in KwaZulu-Natal, but also we were seeing it even in the Eastern Cape being an issue that was highlighted. Has that situation changed?
No, Eastern Cape has advertised, and I think Gauteng as well did advertise. They were very smart. We were supposed to meet with them. They advertised the night before the meeting. So some provinces have advertised to us. But we do think that we need to almost arm ourselves and help the provincial departments as well to engage both the Ministry of Health at national level and Treasury. Because we think the country needs to take healthcare seriously. I mean, there has to be an effort to invest in healthcare, especially for the people that you know you need on the ground. Every doctor to us will tell you that they've worked in a rural area like I have, and where you become both the doctor that puts the patient to sleep and then you turn around and go and operate. That's the reality that happens. And this ratio that we're talking about of doctor-patient ratio being at 0.31, that could hold in cities. The further you go from the cities into rural areas, that ratio even becomes bigger. So we have a fundamental problem here. We need the country, we need Treasury, including the presidency, to look into this thing.
Are we at a point where we can talk about sustainable fixes, or are we at a point right now where such is the burning need of the now that we should be attending to this? What would sustainable fixes entail in a system that continues to churn out graduates year in, year out? This is going to continue to be an issue.
Yeah, so there's two things. One, if we're talking about professionals that are not in demand, this would have been a different discussion. We need these medics, and kudos to them, because they are also needed. Every South African trained doctor, the West, those ones who are even trained in Cuba, they are needed outside of the country. These guys could leave. We, as the South African Medical Associations, have blocked about 2 agencies that are saying, but guys, what the hell? You have skills there. So the one of them is from Ireland. The other one is South African, but is based in West Africa. They want to poach them. But we say no.
Sure.
Because the doctors are needed on the ground. So if really push comes to shove and they leave without even us knowing, because some of them do, then you have a problem. Long term, we need almost like a human resource for health strategy. We're still struggling at that level.
All right. Thank you for that.
Because we're giving some of these guys scholarships, because some of them are actually recipients of bursaries from the very same provinces. So we knew that after 7 years, we know now who is in med school. We know the numbers, so we can work that out.
All right. Kora, thank you for that. Really powerfully stated. That is Mzulungile Notigita, who is the CEO of the South African Medical Association. Sobering realities, and just to hear it from the people at the coalface, right? It's always, eye-opening when you hear it directly from them.
My name's Kaylin Swart, goalkeeper for Banyana. Between the 3 meals of the day, my favorite is breakfast. I always have eggs. Eggs is my superpower. In the house setup, my favorite place is the chill room. I'm always in front of the TV watching something. That's only because I get so little downtime. I just want to relax on the couch and watch TV, whether it's football, cricket, rugby, you name it. We are the African champions. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
22 minutes after 7. The illicit alcohol market has ballooned to a staggering 25.1 billion rand, with illegal drinks now accounting for 18% of all alcohol sold in the country. A recent study by Euromonitor International reveals that this underground trade has surged by some 55% since 2017, outpacing the legal market and draining some 16.5 billion rand in tax revenue from the state in 2024 alone. Let's speak to Dr. Shamal Ramesar, who is head of research at the Drinks Federation of South Africa. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. It's easy to mouth off the figures, and it's the point I was making earlier on with Yusuf Abramji, but it's quite another for you who are at the coalface. This is part of what you track, isn't it? Give me a complete picture, as complete as you can, of what the illicit alcohol market looks like in our country right now. What's driving it?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Thanks very much for having me on the show. Well, as you mentioned, we're starting to see a growth in the illicit alcohol market. And the key drivers, of course, from the research shows that affordability is the number one driver for the surge in the illicit alcohol market. So if you can imagine, illicit alcohol prices are almost 37% cheaper than your legitimate brands. And the prices, therefore, make them lucrative. In fact, from our survey, 67% of all of the respondents said they are willing to buy alcohol, irrespective of its origin. So they're willing to take a chance and buy illicit alcohol, even though it may be counterfeit and can even cause, serious deleterious health effects as well. I think the second driver that we're starting to see from the research is accessibility. Now, we were always conditioned to think that you'll find these illicit alcohol mainly in your townships and rural areas. But the sophistication of the operations now starts to show that illicit alcohol even finds itself in formal retail channels as well. So the accessibility of it is now bigger, which means that there's more of it to buy, and that's why the volume of it has grown as well. Yeah. And the third one that we always speak about is the enforcement, of course. South Africa is notorious for poor or weak enforcement, and this allows these criminals to thrive in this type of environment. And this is really why we're seeing that growth that you mentioned in the opening.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about 55% growth in the last 7 years in this illicit market, suggests that there must be an infrastructure underlying all of it. What do we know about how it all works? And I know that the tobacco industry had to do a similar exercise to understand what they are up against. Tell me about the work that you've done to understand what you are up against.
Yeah, so when we look at what's causing the growth, we understand that these operations have become highly sophisticated. You have seen recently in the news the busts that were happening in for example, Jeppy and KZN and so on. And these were just in the recent weeks. There are many such operations like that within our country. Some of them are your backyard type of operations, but others highly sophisticated with machines used for bottle filling. They have their own printers to print out labels, and it's really becoming more and more difficult for even the forensic guys in our industry to identify what is counterfeit and what is not. Then, of course, because of the lucrative markets, and this was really exposed during the lockdown and the COVID pandemic, where there was the alcohol bans. There are global operations that are producing these counterfeit, products or counterfeit, especially of legitimate brands. And, because of our porous borders, we're starting to find them coming in even from overseas as well.
To someone listening to this conversation, what do you say? Why should this be an issue that they take up and care about, especially in light of what you were talking about, affordability, that, being one of the drivers of why people turn to illicit alcohol? Why does it matter, and why should we be thinking differently? Why is this our problem?
Thanks very much. And that's a brilliant question. So let's start off with the most pressing issue, and that is the biggest type of illicit alcohol in South Africa, which is counterfeit alcohol. Now, counterfeit alcohol means that it's a fraudulent imitation of a legitimate brand. And, sometimes the guys that are manufacturing them put some really toxic chemicals inside these products. So, for example, last year, we've taken some counterfeit alcohol, subjected it to chemical analysis at our labs in the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and we found high concentrations of methanol, even sometimes industrial-grade ethanol. Now, if you can imagine, these are highly toxic to human for human consumption. So if you do consume methanol, for example, it's associated with irreversible blindness. It's associated with the condition in the medical field that we refer to as metabolic acidosis, which means that your blood becomes so acidic that your organs start to fail. So multiple organ failure, which is almost always associated with death. Similarly, with industrial alcohol, we see respiratory distress, respiratory failure, and cardiac failure as well. You would have remembered that last year, I think in December, we had a South African artist and his fiancée who were, on vacation in Vietnam and consumed alcohol that was laced with methanol, and they died. Similarly, a month before that, in Laos, there were 4 students who were on vacation who had alcohol laced with methanol and also died. So that is the seriousness of consuming counterfeit alcohol, purely because, it causes these health concerns. Now, from our study, by the way, it shows that, 49% of the respondents know of somebody who has been physically harmed by consuming alcohol, counterfeit alcohol, And the most scary fact was that 29%, so 1 in 3 consumers, or respondents, I should say, mentioned that they know of somebody who has already died from consuming counterfeit alcohol.
Right.
And that is the seriousness of the issue that we face.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time and your insights. That's Dr. Shamal Ramesar, who is Head of Research at the Drinks Federation, South Africa.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning. We'll start with rugby. The Springbok fly half Andre Pollard believes the Boks are only scratching the surface of their attacking potential. Speaking ahead of Saturday's first test against Italy at Loftus, Pollard says the side is evolving under attack coach Tony Brown and there's still more to unlock.
There's a team with a lot of threats. They've got great players. Mandela, he's unbelievable. He's probably the best centre in Europe at the moment. So listen, there's a lot of threats there. We've got to stop that first, which is important. We got our way that we think is going to be best for this game. But yeah, it's an evolving team. You just look at their last results over the last 2 years. It's been a couple of very good wins, a few very close calls against top teams in the world. So they're on the rise, and you can see that belief in their team. And it's up to us to stop that.
On to soccer news, Chelsea have signed 13-year-old Camden Schaefer from South Africa for a whopping 17 million rand, making him the most expensive player ever at his age. The Benoni-born protege has already racked up 45 goals and 65 assists in one season with Blackburn Rovers under-14s. Now he's nicknamed Cesc after Cesc Fabregas. The attacking midfielder now joins Chelsea's youth ranks and is already signed with Adidas. On to tennis, and it was Cameron Norrie producing one of the best performances of his career. He fought back to beat Francis Tiafoe at Wimbledon 4-6, 6-4, 6-3, 7-5. In the meantime, the world number 1, Arina Sabalenka, had a hard-fought victory over Marie Buskova 7-6, 6-4. And Madison Keys also comfortably through 6-4, 6-2, 2-1. And the Russians, Andrei Rublev, as well as Karen Khachanov, surviving tough tests to book their spot. The 14th seed Rublev had to come from behind to beat South Africa's Lloyd Harris 6-7, 6-4, 7-6, 6-3. And the 17th seed Khachanov battled past Shintaro Mochizuki from Japan 1-6, 7-6, 4-6, 6-3, 6-4. We'll serve up more sport. Top of the hour, I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, City of Ekurhuleni Mayor Nkosindipile Xhakaza says he's written to the National Police Commissioner, Fani Masemola, to investigate a series of shootings involving senior Ekurhuleni municipal officials. Higher Education Minister Dr. Nobuhle Nkabane has responded to criticism about the truthfulness of her statements around the independent panel that assisted her to appoint the chairpersons to serve on the boards of the sector education and training authorities. And the National Prosecuting Authority has filed a petition with the Supreme Court of Appeal to challenge the Free State High Court ruling on Murwadi Cholota's jurisdiction plea. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Morning, very heavy coming in from the Vaal on the R59 heading up to Joburg. There's a really big queue. We've got a queue time of about an hour to get through, passing Randval up towards the 550, the Heidelberg exit. If you're leaving for Running Meyerton, you may want to seriously consider the R82 as an alternative run through. The Mike 1 fairly heavy from Boyson's right through to about Glenhove Road this morning. N1 south between Old Joburg Road and New Roads under pressure. And the lights have gone down again in four ways, Winnie Mandela and Leslie. So delays going to and from the N1 highway. R21 through the roadworks around Tembisa moving okay at this stage. If you're on your way up to Pietermaritzburg, a breakdown between Ashburton and Market Road, so some queuing pressure there. The N2 is fairly heavy. M7 up to Westwood Mall. Ahead of that, it looks reasonably okay, although there is a breakdown around Gateway, which is just starting to slow things up on the northbound track. And the N3 from Pavilion through Spaghetti Junction to Sherwood on your way to Durban looks unusually slow this morning. Cape Town, N1 is your busiest highway with a queue from Waterkloof Hill right through to the city centre, and a crash scene on the N7 North up at Malabongwe Drive. Traffic seems to be passing that. Kuberg Road's quite heavy this morning, getting up towards Killarney Gardens. There's queues from Waterkloof Road, passing the refinery through Bloberg Road and up towards the taxi rank traffic lights. Marine Drive looks a lot better. The lights are working at both Dolphin Beach and at Sunset Beach, but Marine Drive does queue as you come on towards the N1 highway through Pardon Island. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again in Dowling. So I'm on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and Chris Tarrant is looking directly at me and says, who is Bytes? And I say, Bytes is a technology group in South Africa. And he asks me, is that your final answer? And I say, yes. Do I win the money?
I don't think you win all of the money.
Oh, come on.
you might win maybe 70-80% because what kind of tech company is it?
No, I won't go into detail. I take the money and I walk away. So tell me about Bytes and their expectations around profit.
All right, so Bytes expects their profit to flatline in the 6-month period. This as they point to reduced tech spending by corporate customers. So Bytes is a company that has been spun off by Altron. Most of its operations is in the UK, and they really provide companies with IT services. One of their biggest clients is Microsoft, where they install and provide services for Microsoft, or rather they install Microsoft services for other corporates.
So you expected me to know that.
Okay. I'll give you that. So you do take the 1 million. You do then. So the group's CEO, Sam Mudd, said they had to contend with a challenging macroeconomic environment and a transformation of its corporate sales team, which has resulted in a longer than expected readjustment period. Despite the setback, Mudd expressed confidence in the company's strong value proposition, continued engagement, and healthy pipeline. And so Bytes expects growth in both gross profit and operating profit in the second half of the financial year. Its focus, of course, on cloud security and AI services position it well for future growth, leveraging on its strong relationship with Microsoft. Now, despite being optimistic about its prospects, markets really not liking that update. The share price plunged close to 30% in yesterday's session.
The next story you're going to tell us in Dowling touches on our competition law architecture, and I think I picked it up, and it's under the spotlight once again, the processes involved. Tell me about Sun International dumping the Piedmont deal.
Well, Thulas, the group has really, or rather both Piedmont and Sun International walking away from that deal. They announced that they will no longer pursue a 7.3 billion rand acquisition of rival casino group Piedmont Holdings. The deal, of course, was terminated after the Competition Commission recommended it be prohibited, citing concerns about anti-competitive effects in the national and Gauteng casino gambling markets. The Commission's concerns centered around the potential reduction in competition which would have limited customer choice and potentially led to coordinated behavior, reduced promotions, and fewer incentives for customers. Now, if the merger went through, it would have resulted in 92% of all casinos in the country being controlled by just two firms, that being Sun International and Soho Sun, and would have removed Piemont's Emperor's Palace as a competitor to Sun International's Times Square and Carnival City casinos in central Gauteng. Despite the collapse of the deal, Sun International had expressed hope that the Competition Tribunal would still approve the deal. However, with the tribunal's hearing date set after the regulatory long stop date, both parties have mutually agreed to the immediate termination of the proposed transaction. Markets liking the news, with Sun International up 8% in yesterday's session.
Sure. Wow. I suppose we are due for a more in-depth conversation about the competition law landscape. Let's see what we can line up in the coming days. Lastly, Dowling, how are the markets looking at this hour?
So starting in Asia, trade choppy as investors react to recent trade deals, with some deals being sealed while others remain uncertain, and that causing some sort of volatility in markets. And with that, we're seeing the Hong Kong Hang Seng trading lower, down over 1%. Over in Wall Street, futures in positive territory. Caution, however, remains as investors await further labor data out later today. And then coming back home, we saw stocks closing mostly in the red. The All share shedding 0.3% in yesterday's session. The rand remaining stable this morning. It is sitting at 17.60 to the dollar.
Right, Dowling, thank you for that. We'll catch up with you in the third hour of the show just after 8:30.
You are the biggest saver we've ever had.
2,794 Rand a month. It was the easiest switch ever.
What was the real deal they could offer you?
870.
That's amazing. You're always getting something out.
Yeah.
I've been battling to get nice car insurance. Outsurance, I found them. I'm saving a cool $360.
Get the real deal with the real savings.
I made the right move.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands.
Just phone Outsurance, get a quote and see what they can offer you. If you don't save that 321 like I did, you might say get a 500 or $1,000 back. Service and savings, you'll always get something out.
How is it that Outsurance provided the solution for you?
918 Rand is what I'm saving.
Incredible. What brought you and Outsurance together?
718 Rand. I end up saving.
They gave you the real deal.
It literally is the real deal.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Nelson Mandela once said, "There can be no greater gift than that of giving one's time and energy to helping others without expecting anything in return."
What's your Mandela Day game plan this year? Why not lace up those sneakers and hit the ground running at our annual Mandela Day Walk and Run on July 19th at the DP World Wanderers Stadium, Ilovo. You can walk 5Ks, run 10 and 21Ks, and still have enough energy to have fun. It's a whirlwind of fun and laughter, all for a fantastic cause. Every cent goes to support the excellent work of the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Enter on mandeladay.com or register for the virtual race on funnation.org/Nelson Mandela. See you there.
Attention grant beneficiaries. Couldn't switch your SASSA Gold Card for the new Postbank Black Card? No worries. Your SASSA Gold Card is still valid and fully functional. You'll continue receiving your grants safely and securely. No need to change your card or switch banks. Use it as usual at ATMs, retailers, and spaza shops. Don't be misled by anyone claiming you must switch banks. Your money is safe with Postbank, a bank where banking can be completely free. Stay informed and stay safe. Postbank, your bank.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
Right, let me take one or two of your calls at this moment. Let me take this message from John in Cape Town, who says, would we rather have a bloated cabinet of 44 deputy ministers than having more doctors employed in our health system? That is the question from John. Then we still want to go the route of a national dialogue to deal with issues we already know about. So that message coming through from John in Cape Town, one of many that are raising the issues around the national dialogue. In fact, let me play a voice note. I think I saw this interesting suggestion. You remember the show, The Big Debate? Someone is suggesting that why do you need a whole national dialogue with a massive, budget when you can do this?
Morning to Last and SA from listeners, Butaya from Pretoria. To Last, I would just like to know, we used to have a show called The Big Debate. What happened to that show called The Big Debate? And can't we replace the national dialogue with The Big Debate again? The Big Debate used to be very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. So there are many people who are saying that actually there are ways to have this national dialogue without it being structured and budgeted for with massive infrastructure to roll it out. I don't know. The pros and cons of it all, I don't know. Really, I don't know. I don't want to weigh in terms of the pros and cons of the one method being suggested by government, a structured with infrastructure, with people that are on the ground and mobilizing and guiding the process, a sectoral approach across the country versus some of the suggested, short-circuiting and doing it the way that it has been done, including through programs such as The Big Debate. We've been talking a little bit about illicit trade in alcohol, so let me just play one or two voice notes about that.
Morning, Thulas. South Africa will never win the war against illicit liquor and food because you don't have law enforcement officers. They are just out there to line their pockets. Motorcycle licenses are being sold there in Hillbrow. Traffic officers, they see it every day.
Yeah.
Anything less than 50 cc is not allowed on the freeway, but check today. Norman from Brixton.
Yeah, thank you for that, Norman. And you raise another issue that we will cover in the third hour, the licensing regime around motorcycles. I don't know. I've never done a study, so admittedly this is anecdotal based on my observation. I didn't think that motorcycle licenses were a popular category of license when you go for your first license. I didn't know that it was this popular. So naturally I have a question when I see more and more motorcycles. Not that it's a bad thing. The e-commerce system really is convenient. It has led to many people finding some kind of employment. But what are the regulations? What's at play? Are these people all licensed to be on the road in the way that they are? And you raised that point about motorcycle licenses being for sale in Hillbrow. That's one of the concerns that some people have about that proliferation. Let's speak to Ursula in Durban. Good morning to you, Ursula. You want to talk to me about community law and order?
No, it's not Ursula, it's Shura.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I have the name incorrect here.
Good morning, Thulas. You guys did excellent work on this radio platform.
Thank you.
Please, isn't it possible that they can use this radio platform to communicate and to discuss the academics of law and order, find national dialogue, or to pull that percentage into the correct domain of law and order? That is the aim.
Should I please say that again? I don't think I get the point. Who you're suggesting we talk to?
No. Use this platform, these platforms on the radio, to find time to teach and preach law and order, the academics of it in all its facets.
I see.
Yes. Dialogue and to pull that percentage in. We must all help. We're in serious trouble here.
Yes.
To pull that percentage into the correct domain and see, and we will formulate data and see how many positives and negatives, and eventually we can get the help.
Gotcha.
Get the president to talk, so that the economy can open, so they can tighten the laws. We're all gonna have to help.
Yeah. All right.
There's stuff going on here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I get you. Thank you for that, Shura. That's Shura out in Durban.
Start with with a nice song, like with Wilkie Van Santen's Dream.
Start with a nice song.
Knows. Yeah, like Wilkie Santen's Dream, and she's got a new. Well, listen, she's got a new CD out.
Yeah.
It's called "Beat It" and Making It Work.
Gotcha. Thank you for that, Shura. Thank you for your call, Shura, out in Durban, talking about the importance of law and order and bringing out the academic dimensions thereof. That's an interesting topic that I'm pretty sure there'll be occasion to pick it up, because even these conversations we're having about illicit alcohol, the selling of licenses, as was alleged by one of the callers, all of these tie in together around the issue of law and order in the country. Is it Mcebo in KZN? Good morning to you.
Good morning, Thulas. How are you?
Very well. How are you? Please go ahead.
I'm good. It's Mcebo Mazibuko from Mandeni here.
Sure.
No, Thulas, the other thing that I believe your speaker about illicit alcohol did not touch is the element of capital greed. Because you find that these business people, they opt to go and buy alcohol from these illicit producers, not from the main producer, so that they will make super profit. This alcohol now, you find it in big alcohol, in liquor shops, in fact. You know, so now there is the element of capital greed that is at play, and they are putting the lives of our people at risk. So it's the other element that we need to look on. So I think municipalities, through their law enforcement agencies, they needed to strengthen the belt. They needed to ensure that they visit these liquor shops on a regular basis and ensure that alcohol that is being sold is legit. It's legit alcohol.
So are you saying that there's an element of capital greed that has opened up a market to legitimate and well-established liquor shops for these illicit products?
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
wow.
That is my point.
Sure. Wow.
That is my point.
All right, Ncebo, thank you for that, bringing that to the fore there, Ncebo in KZN. Let me speak to Peter in Middelburg. Good morning to you, Peter. Which Middelburg, the one in Mpumalanga or the one in the Eastern Cape?
Mpumalanga.
All right, please go ahead. Talk to me about crime and corruption in the country.
Yeah, Thulasizwe, I want to speak about the situation in the country and now bringing in the illicit alcohol. You know, this situation has been brought about this corrupt ANC government, you see. Thulasizwe, I remember, maybe I will quote it in Afrikaans. I remember in 1986, the former president of apartheid, who was that one, P.W. Botha, he said in Afrikaans, as ons die land en die hand van ANC terroriste gaan oorgee, daar gaan chaos wees in South Africa. Exactly, almost 40 years. If we are going to give the hands in the ANC terrorists, there will be chaos in South Africa. Look at the chaotic situation the country is facing. As a result of ANC is a terrorist organization. Let me put it that way. Whether they like it or not, they are terrorists. They have terrorized the administration of the country. They have terrorized.
Peter?
Hello, yeah?
Yes, please go ahead. You were saying they've terrorized,
Yeah, they have terrorized administration of the country, terrorized economy of the country, terrorized healthcare system of the country, terrorized railway network of the country, terrorized SAA. So P.W. Botha was correct by saying that ANC is a terrorist organization. They have terrorized this country.
All right, Peter, thank you for that. That's Peter in Middelburg. Of course, those words were said in a completely different context in terms of designating the ANC as a terrorist organization. And, many people would push back and say, in that context, characterizing the ANC as a terrorist organization, was just not something that was founded even at international law, which recognizes the rights of people who are under systems of oppression to actually fight for their liberation, including armed struggle. That is in international law. But I'm not taking away from the point you are making, Wena Peter, about the situation as it plays itself now. And I guess the challenge is to the ANC that has been at the leadership of the country for the last 30 years is, did you not owe it to South Africans, to your allies around the world, the anti-apartheid, the morally right anti-apartheid movement globally, to govern in a way that vindicates their faith in you? You were infused with that moral authority at the start of the administration. Should we not be having a different conversation from the one that Peter and others are having about governance of the last 30 years. And I think that's the charge and indictment on the ANC. And I think that's only fair to level that charge and indictment.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Lights are off Wittkop and Malabongwe. That's a really busy route going through North Riding and coming in from Kaya Sand. So just expect some bottlenecking going through there. The big delay across Gauteng is the R59, leaving the Vaal very heavy as you come up through Randvaal towards the brewery, towards the 550 Heidelberg Road exit. Very heavy backlog. We've got trip times of about an hour to get from the back to the front of that queue. The Mike 1 approaching Grayston Drive, going up from Melrose is slow. A lot of pressure on the Mike 1 around the Grayston Drive ramps as well. Pretoria holding it down quite nice. The one big exception really is Solomon Mshlangu heading east from Linwood Road, or heading west, I beg your pardon, heading west from Solomon Mshlangu down towards Olympus Drive. You're going to be asked to queue quite heavily through there today. If you're on your way from Durban up to Pietermaritzburg, another day of delays with a breakdown before Market Road and a pushback down towards Ashburton. There's also a breakdown at Keir Edge on your way up towards Pietermaritzburg to watch for. A lot of traffic around Spaghetti Junction this morning. Inbound quite heavy from Pavilion through Sherwood, the N2 north from the M7 through Westwood Mall, and the N2 coming south looks like an issue just before Inanda Road. So from Queen Dundee Drive, that all gets fairly heavily backed up. A reminder of a couple of issues in the Eastern Cape. The N2 blocked at Berlin between KWT and East London. That's due to protesting. The alternative R102 also had some burning tyres, and a truck's overturned just north of Craddock. So a bit of waiting around on the N10 to get past that one, both directions. Cape Town this morning, M5 is now pretty busy, coming up through Rondebosch, returning into the N2, and a crash if you're leaving the top end of Parklands on Malabongwe Drive at Potsdam Road, slow going from Rivergate towards the N7. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Got a Standard Bank business account and self-service banking? You could win up to 5,000 Rand cash every day this week in the Standard Bank self-service quiz. SMS Standard Bank self-service to 45787 for a chance to be selected. Answer 2 easy questions about Standard Bank self-service banking to be a winner. Tune in every day this week on the Midday Link-Up to see if it's you. Standard Bank. It can be. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Get to Dis-Chem for big electrical savings. The more you buy, the more you save. Enjoy incredible discounts on participating brands like Philips, Dequip, Reflections, and Russell Hobbs. Get 25% off when you buy 1 electrical product, 30% off when you buy 2, and buy any 3 or more and get a huge 35% off each. Don't miss out. Big electrical savings end 13 July. Only at Dis-Chem. Better health starts here.
Let me get this right, Ron. You're a plumber by day and Pretoria's smoothest wedding DJ by night.
Yeah, it started out as a passion and now I've got bookings until December. And a smoke machine that needs its own seatbelt.
And you sold your car to buy a van through We Buy Cars.
Brew, it was music to my ears. Zero admin, no long queues. They pulled in, checked it out, and before I knew it, I had cash in the bank.
Now that's a banger. We Buy Cars. Geared for your passion, geared for you.
The Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, under the banner of the Fantuka Af Living Legends Recognition Series, will host a tribute concert in honor of Mama Abigail Gubega, celebrating her 68 years of excellence in the South African music industry. It's taking place on Saturday, the 5th of July, 2025, at 6 p.m. at the State Theatre in Pretoria, featuring over 25 legendary performers such as Yvonne Chaka Chaka, Faith Kekana, Mandisa Dlanga, Kanyoma Pumulo, Sipho Hot Sticks Mabuse, Makoim Khubata, among others. Tickets are available at Web Tickets and Pick and Pay. Get your tickets now. The Abigail Gubega tribute concert is supported by SABC Radio.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
The South African Social Security Agency, SASSA, has launched a rigorous verification campaign targeting over 210,000 social grant beneficiaries flagged for possible undeclared income. The move follows credit bureau checks revealing potential discrepancies in income declarations and is part of SASSA's broader push to clamp down on fraud and ensure that grants reach the most vulnerable South Africans. So let's speak to Paseka Letsatsi, who speaks on behalf of SASSA. Paseka, good morning. So you and I spoke some time ago when you were at the start of this, verification campaign, and you had said that there will be beneficiaries who would not receive their grants. They shouldn't panic. They should just report for personal verification. You've had a month or two of that exercise. What is it revealing?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and thanks for having me. Yes, we did have a conversation. It reveals basically that majority of individuals who have been identified are resisting to come forward to present themselves. We will be doing this exercise every month. We'll be engaging with the beneficiaries. We hope that some of them will come forward to present themselves, because we have made it very clear that this is not an antagonistic approach. It's a cordial approach. We are just having a conversation with them, and we expect them to come to the party and present themselves to a SASSA office.
Can you confirm reports carried in the media recently that from the work that you have done, you've identified some beneficiaries of grants who are also employed, and in your assessment, their income from that employment actually means that they must repay SASSA the money that they have received already? And have you had to make those demands that people #pay back the money?
Correct, Thulasizwe. We have identified that there are people who are employed, and what we have indicated to them is that when you sign a contract or when you sign the form of an application, there's a section there which explains that when the conditions, your condition in terms of employment changes, you are obliged to inform the agency. However, those who are employed and they have not indicated to us, definitely will be left with no option but to indicate that they must pay the money back to SASSA. We would expect them to sign an acknowledgement of debt to say this is an arrangement in which that they are going to pay back the organization that which they got. But we, like I said earlier on, Thulasizwe, we are still cordial with them. We don't want to go to an extent where we then start involving other agencies. And we think and we appreciate that people will come forward and be honest that their conditions have changed.
Does that process grapple with the reality that in many instances there will be people who undertake casual work, domestic work, work in the garden, and the likes, waste picking and other forms of employment? Does it grapple with that?
It does. It does. Thanks for that matter which we just raised, Thulasizwe. It does take that into cognizance, and hence we are saying it is important for individuals to come forward and explain to the organization so that there can be an understanding. It doesn't help anybody for them to stay and take a letter or delete an SMS that you have sent to them, or take a letter and throw it in the dustbin, because unfortunately, if you do that, we would then have to come and we take other measures which may not be favorable to those beneficiaries who have been identified. And
lastly, Paseka, I didn't know that this is a process that you in a way, you don't have a choice but to undertake. Is it at the instruction of National Treasury?
It's not an instruction of National Treasury, Thulasizwe. It is within our regulations, which we are just enforcing. However, obviously, it will be in the interest of National Treasury that an organization like SASSA save money from the public purse. Obviously, we understand that the public purse is bleeding, and I think National Treasury will be interested to make sure that people do what is right to make sure that money is saved. But it is what we are expected as an organization to enforce our regulations.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. Paseka Letsatsi speaks on behalf of the South African Social Security Agency. Let's go straight to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 0800 60,000 today.
In our top stories, Ekurhuleni mayor wants police to probe city officials' murders, and NPA petitions Supreme Court of Appeal regarding Cholota's extradition court outcome. Good morning. City of Ekurhuleni Mayor Nkosindiphile Xhakaza says he's written to the National Police Commissioner, Fani Masimola, to investigate a series of shootings involving senior Ekurhuleni municipal officials. This follows the assassination of the municipality's head of forensic audit, Mpho Mafole. The official was fatally shot in a drive-by shooting on the R23 in Kempton Park on Monday. The motive for the shooting is unknown at this stage. Police are investigating. Tsepo Pagane reports.
Gauteng police spokesperson Dimakatso Nebuhuli says they found the victim lying in his car with gunshot wounds.
The victim was driving on the R23 road when he was shot by unknown suspects. The motive of the shooting is unknown at this stage.
According to Ekurhuleni Mayor Nkosindiphile Xhakaza, the city has witnessed a disturbing trend of violent attacks against officials fighting corruption. In 2023, the city's chief financial officer, Kagiso Lerutla, survived a shooting while Simnikiwe Mapini, an adjudicator in the finance department, was tragically killed in the same year. And now Mafole, whom Xhakaza says was targeted for his commitment to clean governance.
In Cape Town, a 39-year-old man has been shot dead in Portland's in Mitchell's Plain on the Cape Flats. Police spokesperson Wesley Tweak says police found the victim on the side of the road with multiple gunshot wounds.
The motive for the attack is yet to be determined. The unknown suspects fled the scene and are yet to be arrested. A murder case was registered for investigation. Anyone with any information about the shooting incident can contact Crime Stop on 08600 10111 or use the mobile application MySAPS anonymously.
Higher Education Minister Dr. Nobuhle Nkabane has responded to criticism about the truthfulness of her statements around the independent panel that assisted her to appoint the chairpersons to serve on the boards of the sector education and training authorities. It has since come to light that there were individuals who are or had been connected with the department. The DA laid a complaint with the Ethics Committee and the Public Protector to determine whether she had breached her oath of office. The party also laid a criminal charge of fraud against Nkabane. Addressing beneficiaries of the National Skills Fund at an event in Cape Town, Nkabane said she thinks the main reason for the controversy is that context is lacking.
I think where we are missing it is the context. When you say independent, you can say in different context. So when I meant independent, I meant they do not have any personal benefits, they do not have any direct interest on the process, and they meet the expectations, and they are experts in their own right, and they are professionals. That's what I meant.
Government has admitted that there is not enough funding to address the housing backlog. It says the ongoing challenge of adequate financial injection is growing annually. Human Settlements Minister Thulasizwe Simelane revealed this in Parliament while she was tabling the budget vote for the department's current financial year. She says the department has been allocated 33 billion rand for the year under review.
Is the money enough even for those which have been formalized to quickly build and house people? That is why in our target, as I've indicated, we are planning over 300,000. Is that enough? Not really.
And finally, the National Prosecuting Authority has filed a petition with the Supreme Court of Appeal to challenge the Free State High Court ruling on Murwadi Cholota's jurisdiction plea. Last month, Judge Philip Lopsher ruled the extradition of the former personal assistant to former Free State Premier Ace Magashule in the multi-million rand asbestos corruption case was unlawful. Cholota was Magashule's personal assistant when the asbestos tender was allegedly illegally awarded in 2014. NPA spokesperson Mtunzi Maga says the NPA is also considering to approach the Constitutional Court.
The petition to the SCA follows after Globsa J dismissed the NPA's request for the Honorable Judge to reserve questions of law in terms of Section 319 of the Criminal Procedure Act. We are of the firm view that the Honorable Judge erred in dismissing the application for leave to appeal. that there are reasonable prospects of success to appeal the Cholota judgment and that there are compelling reasons for the SCA to hear the appeal. We are also exploring the possibility of approaching the Constitutional Court challenging the same judgment in view of the possible far-reaching implications on many other extradition matters.
Recapping the top story, City of Ekurhuleni Mayor Nkosindiphi Xhakaza says he's written to the National Police Commissioner, Fani Masimola, to investigate a series of shootings involving senior Ekurhuleni municipal officials. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
Just phone Outsurance, get a quote and see what they can offer you. If you don't save that 321 like I did, you might get a 500 or $1,000 back. Service and savings, you'll always get something out.
How is it that Outsurance provided the solution for you?
918 Rand is what I'm saving.
Incredible. What brought you and Outsurance together?
718 Rand. I end up saving.
They gave you the real deal.
It literally is the real deal.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Soccer action. Banyana stepping up their Women's Africa Cup of Nations preparations ahead of the opener against Ghana. And in rugby, the Springbok fly-half, Andre Pollard, believes the Boks are only scratching the surface of their attacking potential. Details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. An important update on the N1 coming south through Pretoria. Yesterday, we had a full closure at Linwood Road, which caused major delays. 2 hours was the queue time there from Storenville to Linwood, and there was notification of that coming back and doing exactly the same thing today, but it's been postponed. So if you got caught in the massive queue yesterday, N1 south at Linwood, and you're just a bit worried, you've seen the message flying around about the closure today, it has been postponed. The N1 should stay open through Linwood Road. That's the good news. Staying in the capital city, there's a little bit of pressure on Solomon Mhlanga this morning, moving westbound from Linwood Road down towards Olympus Drive. You're going to be asked to queue there. Also, some big traffic coming off the Vaal. The R59 is ridiculously backed up, coming up from Randvaal towards the Heidelberg Road, the 550 junction. If you're leaving the Vaal, seriously consider using the R82 as the alternative route. A lot of pressure in Durban, Spaghetti Junction entry inbound from Pavilion down to Sherwood. That's a breakdown. Stationary vehicle causing that backlog. There's also queues from the M7 up through Spaghetti Junction, and an issue on the N2 South. There's some roadworks this morning. Right lane closed before Inanda Road, so coming from Queen Nandi Drive. That is quite slow. Cape Town, it's wet, and it's going to stay wet through until Sunday in the forecast, so start thinking about safe driving, please. Cape Town roads generally a lot lighter with school holiday, with the exception of the M5. That's quite heavily backed up passing Rondebosch up towards the N2 highway. And a crash on Malapongwe Drive at Potsdam Road, holding traffic leaving Rivergate towards the N7 at the top of Dunoon. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
10 minutes after 8 on this Thursday. It is absolutely great to be in your company this morning. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM 104 to 107. You know, from time to time, in fact, at the top of this hour, we usually just recap what we've covered and some of the themes in conversation that are emerging. But occasionally you hear something in the news update that then jumps out at you. So that's exactly what happened as I was listening to Anne's bulletin there. The explanation now by the Minister of Higher Education, Dr. Nobuhle Nkabane, explaining what she meant when she said the quote-unquote panel that advised her on those SETA board chairperson appointments, when she said it was independent, that the independence she meant is that these are people who do not have a personal interest in the outcome in those processes. So it's not the independence that you and I understood that, that's what independence means, in that these are people who were outside of the department, right? People who were coming from the outside, lending their expertise and coming in as independents, as you would understand it, in the case of an independent director in a board or the likes. Because as it turned out, when the names were published, you'll remember, of course, that these were people who were departmental officials, some of whom were actually sitting with her in Parliament as she was saying that there was an independent panel. So I was just struck by that explanation. Those people are not independent of the department. Let's start there. There's no debate about that. The names that were published back up that these are departmental officials. Were they independent in the sense that they did not have a personal interest? Okay, that's an interesting new dynamic. But was that what you understood when she said there was an independent panel? Did you understand her to mean that these are people who don't have a personal interest in the matters that were being discussed? I wonder. So, yeah, that's the explanation at this particular point. All right. Having said that, let's get on with the third hour of the show. We'll start up with that conversation around the proliferation of motorbikes, as well as some of the incidents that you do see on the roads involving motorbikes. That conversation with Xolani Fihla coming up in a moment.
No challenge is bigger than a willing nation. There is undoubtedly a solution for every problem. Get in touch with Lifeline South Africa on a variety of critical matters that affect our nation, such as mental and emotional health, gender-based violence, HIV and AIDS, and HIV testing services. For assistance, contact Lifeline Trauma and Crisis Line on 0861 322 322. Stop Gender Violence free call or WhatsApp number 0800 150 150. AIDS helpline toll-free number is 0800 012 322 or WhatsApp on 084 922 8808. Lifeline South Africa, mental and emotional health for all. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
A stage awaits. Not for applause, but for possibility. For over 40 years, Standard Bank has championed the arts, and at the National Arts Festival, we don't just watch talent rise, we help grow it. Through our Standard Bank Young Artist Winners, raw voices find power, unseen stories take the spotlight, and what begins as a dream grows into a legacy. Join us in Makanda for the festival. Standard Bank, proud lead sponsor of B20 South Africa, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Africa's most decorated women's national team, the Super Falcons, are searching for maximum points in their Group E opening match, while Eagles of Carthage want to emphasize that North Africa is their territory. This is the Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Witness Nigeria up against Tunisia this Sunday, 6 July at 6 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC Sport on TTT Channel 4 and S3. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Who says talking never solves anything? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
14 minutes after 8, the explosive growth of the country's e-commerce sector has led to an unprecedented increase in motorbike delivery services. But behind the convenience of fast deliveries, we are told, is a grim and underreported reality. Delivery riders are being sent onto dangerous roads with inadequate training, poor safety gear, and little regulatory oversight. Hein Jonker, the founder of the Motorcycle Safety Institute of South Africa, for example, and other advocates are flagging the issue, which they say is costing lives, and calling for urgent reform, industry accountability, and public awareness. So let's speak to the JMPD's Xolani Fihla, the spokesperson there, Johannesburg Metro Police Department. Good morning to you, Xolani, and thank you for your time. So anecdotally, and I think that this is where the conversation started within our team, anecdotally, the number of incidents we've observed where there was a motorcycle that was involved in a crash, delivery motorcycle, it got us thinking, are you seeing an increase of delivery motorcycles involved in crashes?
Good morning to you, Thulasizwe, and let me also greet the listeners. We can say we are seeing a lot of these delivery motorbikes being involved in accidents. I wouldn't necessarily say an increase. It has been happening regularly within the city of Johannesburg, and through recent observations, it does highlight a sharp increase in the delivery bikes operating unlawfully within the city of Johannesburg.
So you flag the issue of operating unlawfully, and that leads me to the other point that has always exercised my mind, that I didn't believe that a motorcycle license was as popular as the number of motorcycles on the road now suggests. Tally that, the number of infractions that you are observing, do they include people who don't hold necessarily the motorcycle license? They may have a driver's license of one kind or another, but not necessarily a compliant motorcycle license?
That is true, Thulasizwe. We have observed that many of these riders firstly lack valid driving licenses, and the vehicles don't have license discs. That means they're not registered or licensed, and most of the operators are not South African nationals. They are foreign nationals with proper immigration improper immigration documents such as passports and working permits, authorizing them to commercially operate in the country.
So what does this point to then, Xolani? The levels of compliance, and I'm just wondering, for example, around if you're riding a motorcycle, there are other requirements, safety requirements that you need to adhere to, the wearing of a helmet, etc. And biker organizations encourage other measures, and even the type of clothing that you should be wearing, shoes and the likes. To what extent do you see manifestations of violations even of those?
Mm-hmm. No, Thulasizwe, going beyond it, if you do want to use a delivery bike in South Africa for reward, for one, and this is for commercial purposes like food delivery and courier services, you'll need to have a combination of personal and vehicle documentation, as well as adhering to traffic regulations and laws, just as you mentioned, with wearing a helmet and having the proper gear. For the driver, you'll need to have a valid driving license which allows you to operate that specific vehicle, and in this case, you need to have a Code A or Code A1 driving license. And for commercial delivery services, and especially transporting goods for reward, then it's likely that you'll have to also have a professional driving permit. If you are a foreign national, as I did mention earlier, then you are also required to have valid documentation allowing you to be in the country first, and also accompanied by a valid working permit. And for the vehicle, it needs to be registered and licensed to be operating on a public road, and the license disc must be displayed on these vehicles. And this has brought in that observation and enforcement from the JMPD. But before enforcement, we have done engagements through our community outreach unit with the operators, highlighting what I've just mentioned, and from there then we started with our operations, ensuring that there is compliance.
What will you say to those that what you are doing is just not adequate at all, Xolani? For instance, how do you account for the fact that these small vehicles, motorcycle type, I don't know, those yellow small vehicles, I think they're called the cute with a Q, that in terms of the CC, I don't know what the technical description, and you will know, they don't meet the requirements to be on the highways, but you are seeing them on the highways across Johannesburg.
Yes, and that goes back to compliance, and most of these people do not have or do not know the rules and regulations of the National Traffic Act, and how and where to operate these vehicles. And with a smaller CC, let's say 125 cc's and below, then you're not allowed to operate your vehicle on a highway. It's only other arterial routes that you can use. And with further observations as well, we have seen that they have been parking on pavements and obstructing traffic, parking illegally, and also what we've mentioned, engaging in reckless driving behavior, such as speeding and weaving in and out of traffic and ignoring traffic signals, which then leads to accidents.
But yeah, Xolani, you are not answering my question. To observe and lament is for us as citizens and say, oh, this is such a frustrating phenomenon. You have the wherewithal to deal with it. You're not addressing that. People are saying you are missing in action in as far as that element is concerned.
We have been conducting operations regarding that, and through our observations, the first operation was conducted on the 13th of May this year in Rosebank. It's just outside of the Gautrain station, and that was through complaints regarding illegal parking in the area. And on that date, 15 motorbikes were impounded by JNPD and for various violations, and that is for obstructing traffic and the lack of licensing. And additionally, we did arrest 10 individuals for the contravention of the Immigration Act. So we are taking action regarding this matter, and we are seeing that the city of Tshwane is also following suit. So we are making sure that there is compliance when it comes to delivery services. But it is really a bigger issue because these people are operating on behalf of certain companies. So these companies as well must ensure that the people that they do hire for these services meet the proper requirements that allows them to be operating within the South Africa and on our roads. And it is a plea going out to those companies as well that they must also play their part in ensuring that their operators are legal and are complying with the laws within the country.
All right, Xolani, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's the Johannesburg Metro Police Department spokesperson, Xolani Fihla, addressing that issue there around the proliferation of motorbikes, as well as, they call them what? Pajaj cute. You see it on the highway when you know for a fact that this is not supposed to be on the highway simply because of the speed regulations for driving on the highway. But Xolani is saying that there is law enforcement and they're stepping up on it. What do you think? I think it warrants a broader conversation from what Xolani was describing. It involves various other departments. Again, issues of lawfully operating in the country with all the licensing requirements, with all the permitting requirements and immigration status and so on and so forth.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
We are woven into the same soil that shapes South Africa. Its dreams, its energy, its promise. These guide us. Together we've built progress, hand in hand, from the mines to bustling main streets, from one generation to the next. With communities, government and partners, every initiative from healthcare to education, youth empowerment to entrepreneurship lights the way forward. Because we don't just mine minerals, we mine possibility and progress with purpose. Together, we're shaping what's next. Mining potential, building beyond. Anglo-American.
My name is Lona Temba Mhlongo. I play as a defender. When I'm at camp with Banyana, I don't have friends, I have teammates. If Banyana scored 3 goals against Ghana, I will sing Phambili ngeo, Phambili ngisemoyeni, Phambili ngeo, Phambili ngeo. I will sing that.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me take 1 or 2 calls now. Zola in Bloemfontein, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about the Department of Social Development?
Good morning, Thulas. Good morning to other listeners. Yes,
I'm saying it's a good thing that they're doing to clamp down on corruption. But they must not just end up there. They must first put their house in order because that corruption occurs because of some officials there. Also, they must look at these foreigners, legal or illegal foreigners, who are benefiting out of social development with their corrupt documents. So for them, focus on those people who are not declaring their extra income. It's good, but they must not just end up there. Put their house in order. Also check on these illegal foreigners and legal ones, because in the Free State, you find that there are so many people who are benefiting out of that money. Every month when you go to the border, they are coming to this country, they get their money, they go back to the street. Whereas we don't have money. Yes.
Zola, thank you for that.
So much.
Pointing to many points of leakage within the system, I think, is what Zola is pointing to. That don't just focus on one element, focus on all the points where leakages are occurring within the system. Begin Mpumalanga, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about unemployed doctors?
In English, it is said, if you don't know where to go, the road will take you there.
Yeah.
And I believe that the Parliament must enact regulation that will have to deal with the employment of doctors. You know, in the golden days when police were employed, you would know that once you enroll with the police and you are employed, you are going to be deployed elsewhere. And I think this had to apply to the doctors. We can't have people who have spent 7 years and more being unemployed at the end of the day. I think they are bankrupting their mind. They are emotionally, draining them. So I am requesting and pledging to the government officials who are listening to your show to start suggesting that at least we've got the so-called ISAQA to look and to the statistics, the database of doctors who are not employed and assist them. I thank you.
Thank you for that, Peggy. That's Peggy in Mpumalanga there. A more systemic and sustained, ongoing, response to this phenomenon. Doctors unemployed, the system, the health system in our country actually needs doctors. Somehow, Peggy suggests we need a way that is more sustainable to bridge that gap between what we need and what is already available but is not being tapped into.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
So that promo, Zai, that's about the WAFCON. One of the players talking about singing Pambirine Ondo, Pambirine Chimurenga, forward with the war, forward with the struggle. I'm always fascinated when I hear people in this country singing that song. And I wonder if they understand what it's about. Pambirine Ondo.
Well, we're not looking for beauty in the beautiful game. We're looking for warriors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Forward with the war in Morocco.
Absolutely.
Not the actual war before I'm taken to the PCCSA.
Here it's Women's Africa Cup of Nations. That's what we're building. Those kind of warriors. And we're looking forward to the kickoff on Monday. We'll be taking on Ghana. And I know it's all happening with the defending champions. That's Banyana. They were disrupted by a 2-day strike over unpaid bonuses. And now they've got their sponsor SASSA pulling out. So there's plenty of challenges, but they are looking forward to a boosting start and a confident start. And after their opening match against Ghana, Desiree Ellis's Warriors will complete Group C with clashes against Tanzania. That's the 11th of July. And then Mali on the 14th of July. And all those encounters you can catch live on SABC Sport. More soccer. After being relegated to the ABC Motsepe League, Cape Town Spurs have appointed Roger de Saar as their new technical director. Following a disappointing season in the Motsepe Foundation Championship, the Urban Warriors have faced relegation for the second consecutive year, having previously dropped from the Betway Premiership. Rugby Henry Pollard says fierce competition for the Springbok number 10 jersey drives him to raise his game as he prepares to face Italy at Loftus Versfeld on Saturday. The 31-year-old 80-cap double World Cup winner is back in South Africa, having signed a 2-year deal with the Vodacom Bulls.
There's a team with a lot of threats. They've got great players. Mandela, he's unbelievable. He's probably the best centre in Europe at the moment. So listen, there's a lot of threats there. We've got to stop that first, which is important. And we got our way that we think is going to be best for this game. But yeah, it's an evolving team. You just look at their last results over the last 2 years. It's been a couple of very good wins, a few very close calls against top teams in the world. So they're on the rise, and you can see that belief in their team. And it's up to us to stop that.
And finally, tennis. Naomi Osaka believes she's finally overcome her Wimbledon grass court fear after a 6-3, 6-3, 6-2 win over Katerina Siniakova.
Hopefully, I'll be able to play many more matches. But I think definitely this year I feel a lot more comfortable moving on grass. I know the last couple years I was really scared to move because when I was younger I strained my knee or whatever. So it took a couple years to get over that, but I definitely feel a lot more comfortable.
And that's right. We'll be back. John Hediker, more sport. That's from the tennis courts. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the ANC KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Task Team has recalled the mayor and deputy mayor of Gwadukuza municipality. They were appointed by the Municipal Council in November 2024. City of Ekurhuleni Mayor Nkosi Ndiphile Xhakaza says he's written to the National Police Commissioner, Fani Masimula, to investigate a series of shootings involving senior Ekurhuleni municipal officials. And Higher Education Minister Dr. Nobuhle Nkabane has responded to criticism about the truthfulness of her statements around the independent panel that assisted her to appoint the chairpersons to serve on the boards of the sector education and training authorities. It has since come to light that there were individuals who are or had been connected with the department. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very heavy extreme delays coming in off the Vaal. It's been our top story this morning. Trying to avoid the R59 on the run from Mayerton up through Randval. Big queues up towards the Heidelberg Road. R550 exit the R82 and Altinda Route through Walkerville. Looks good. You can get right up there, right up through into Joburg using the Mike 1. It's all clear. A lot of hassles around Sandton this morning. Crash William Mandela at Republic Road. So there's a delay. Got a little operation around the Mike 1 at Greyston Bridge. So that's all snarled up. A crash going north into Greyston as well, and some delays trying to get off on the southbound with a queue back from around about Woodmead Drive territory. Roadworks on the R21 South, interestingly, moving down towards the Benoni exit this morning. If you're airport bound, there is a delay still to work through there. Durban easing up quite nicely. Spaghetti Junction and Mgeta Road looking fine. Kwamashu Gateway looks fine. Don't forget off peak from 9 o'clock until 4 p.m. You can hit some big delays going to single lane sections at Sabaya. If the construction guys turn up and take it down to that lane, it gets very heavy. So factor that in on your way to the airport. East London to KWT, protesting along the N2 at Berlin's been disrupting traffic, and Cape Town through the rain, which is here now probably until about Sunday. Conditions not too bad in terms of volume. The M5 is a standout with a queue just moving up towards the N2 highway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again in Dowling. Let's start with inflation expectations. You're saying they've hit their lowest level in 4 years.
That's right, Thulasizwe. This is according to the Bureau for Economic Research's latest survey. Respondents expect consumer price growth to average 3.9% this year, down from 4.4% previously, which is below the SARB's target midpoint of 4.5%. Now, the survey captures the views of business people, trade union officials, and financial analysts. It's revealed that analysts are predicting a 3.4% inflation rate for the year, business executives expecting 4.3%, and trade union reps forecasting 4%. In contrast, wage growth expectations have been revised upward, with respondents anticipating 4.9% growth this year and 5.1% growth next year. GDP growth forecasts have, however, been trimmed, with expectations of 0.9% growth this year and 1.2% growth in 2026. The predictions are somewhat in line with the SARB's forecast, with Governor Lesesha Kganyago saying that inflation is likely to be below 4% this year, and of course advocating for a lower inflation target to align with international peers. Now, the Bureau for Economic Research says if the current trend continues, it could lead to another rate cut at the next meeting, which is scheduled for the end of this month.
So on this one, Dowling, if Chris Tarrant is facing me and asking me who is Invicta, I'm taking whatever winnings I've accumulated at that point and I'm walking away.
Going home.
Or I'm calling a friend and I'm calling you. Who is Invicta?
So Invicta is a company owned by sorry, I forgot
Chris
his name.
Tarrant. Not Chris.
Christo Visa,
Yes.
yes. It's owned by Christo Visa. It's an industrial holding company. Basically invests and owns companies that supply machinery and parts to industries like the agricultural sector, mining sector, as well as construction sector. So they hold companies that basically provide parts and machinery.
Yeah, and so tell me about them and their hopes about the international market.
Yeah, they're ramping up their diversification efforts at Thulas, aiming to generate 50% of its earnings outside South Africa within the next year. And in an attempt to do so, Invicta has established an engineering startup in the US called KSP. It's set up through Invicta's Kian joint venture and will expand the company's presence in the US by distributing undercarriage machinery. This move, of course, part of Invicta's geographic diversification strategy, which aims to reduce its reliance on the local market. The group has been expanding its international footprint, including the acquisition of the UK's nationwide bearing company, which provides bearings and oil seals to the agricultural and earth-moving machinery aftermarkets. The company currently operates in 17 countries with manufacturing facilities in China and distribution platforms in Europe, the US, Southeast Asia, and Southern Africa. Now, while it aims to diversify its revenue streams, company CEO Stephen Joffe noted that they would pursue acquisitions carefully, striking a cautious tone due to trade risks and geopolitical uncertainty, which he says is creating a muted deal-making environment.
All right, it being a Thursday, what kind of a day can we expect in the markets, Dowling?
Trade likely to remain choppy to us as investors await that July 9th trade truce deadline. And so most markets are mixed, and that could also play out in the JSE today. Those jitters are not filtering through to the rand, though, as it remains stable, benefiting from a weaker dollar. It is sitting at 17.60 to the greenback this hour. Over in the US, the futures are in the green. Traders looking out for employment figures, many expecting a subdued print following the ADP figures, where the private sector shed 33,000 jobs in June. Lastly, in Asia, stocks are on track to end the day mixed. Markets struggling to find direction as investors remain wary about US-Japan ties.
Did I hear correctly? Did I hear birds chirping behind you somewhere there in the background? Must be nice, eh? Must be nice. Getting work done while taking a stroll in the park. Anyway, I hope you've got your notepad with you, Dowling, because here comes another research errand, and this time it's not from me. It's from Mzi. Mzi says, please ask Ms. Dowling the interesting 4% economic growth of Morocco. How are they doing it? And can South Africa learn on that success? 4% economic growth of Morocco. How are they doing it? And can South Africa learn from that success? So on that note, Dowling, you've been commissioned.
Been tasked.
Yeah, by Mzi.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Dowling. That's Dowling Lechala there. She's kept you updated on business, economics, and the markets throughout the morning. And Mzi, she will come back with an answer for you, a comprehensive one.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
I tell you what, the number of voice notes that have come through, I do want to sort of play them back to back without really intervening or anything, because there really are quite a lot, and I'll take the calls immediately thereafter.
Every black township where the ANC is governing, they vandalize the infrastructure. for the purpose of the families to get the tender for the Jojo tanks. The ANC is a terrorist organization. I agree with that a caller who says so. But those who don't see, they will see, because the ANC has committed a serious crime in this country. The ANC has committed a serious crime in this country. Thank you.
Thulas, the motorcycles or the motorbike licenses being sold out in Joburg, they are actually sold to the foreign nationals. It's them who are driving around here, at least having jobs, while South Africans don't have, because in their countries they used to use these motorbikes. And then, the employment is not on our side. South Africans are on their side. And all these corruptions, thanks, it's really here in Kuma.
Please go ahead.
Good morning, Thulas and the SASFM listeners. This is Mbuzeni in East London. The issue of illicit alcohol is very, very true, and a lot of young people, young professionals are dying because of this clubs that are selling this illicit alcohol. So really people should look up to it and find the perpetrators, because we can't keep on losing people because of this alcohol. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thank you for those. Let me go straight to the calls. JJ in Polokwane, good morning. You want to respond to the caller who called the ANC a bunch of terrorists? Please go ahead.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. And the one is the one that you have just played on the voice note. But let me start here. I'll confine this thing to the area where we are now, which is communication. When you see Mukwena on the screen analyzing what she analyzes, you see those beautiful women reading the news. You come on the other side, you find Thulasizwe Simelane, Ashraf Gada, Keti Mhlatane, and all those people. ANC worked very hard to get them there. What they did is for them to go to school and learn the art of what they are doing. But the policy to get them there is the policy of the ANC. And it cannot be a terrorist organization. For people today to communicate with the cell phones, phone in the radio, and say what they want to say is the hard work of the ANC. For SAFM to be what it is today, you were having Sakimato Govern Ready in the communication department of the ANC. Govern Ready fought very hard to eradicate the radio RSA to have this one that we are having today, to get the people of this country to communicate in the manner that they want.
Gotcha. JJ?
And I think people should understand that when they speak, they must speak with the information and they must speak with the tendency and intention to build rather than to destroy. I am the member of the ANC.
Sure. JJ,
I'm not a terrorist.
JJ, can I quickly engage you? The way I understood the sentiment, I did not understand it to be saying terrorist organization in the classical, traditional sense of the definition of the word. And that's why I had that pushback that says, look, in terms of the struggle against apartheid, in the context in which words such as the ANC is a terrorist organization were being used, there was that counter argument. But wait, let me finish, JJ. What I'm saying is, do you not understand it to be a critique of the governance track record that says, yes, all these great things we are talking about, freedom of expression. And I did talk about the moral authority and rectitude of the ANC upon coming to power in 1994, because, you know, it was the representative of the South African people, recognized by the anti-apartheid global movement, that it is right to support these people, and one of their agencies is the ANC. No one can quibble with any of that, the foundations of our democracy. I understood the comment to be about the track record in governance, that it has elements that, according to that caller and a few others, have been destructive, hence the use of the word terrorist organization, which I don't understand to be a meaning that terrorist organization as in, you know, what you and I have come to understand to be a terrorist organization.
Thulasizwe, you corrected it after I had spoken. I had it very well and clear because you are a sophisticated person, just like all other people who are sophisticated. But you must remember, fools multiply at a faster pace, while the sophisticated people multiply at the speed of a tortoise. And what they are saying to indicate that you can say that because that's how you understand it and that's how you should look at it.
Yeah.
But the person who says it even quoted what Botha has said because they take that as a reality and the truth.
Gotcha.
You see, that's why he quoted that in Afrikaans and this other one also. But all these beautiful things that you are indicating, including the cell phone, to have a cell phone here, is the hard work of the ANC, whether people
JJ?
like it or not.
Thank you for that. Let me move on. Thank you, JJ in Polokwane. Let me go to Phumzile in Humansdorp. Good morning, Phumzile. I think you are also on the same topic.
Good morning, Zovu. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Great, man. Good morning to the listeners as well. To have that chap, Pete from Middelburg,
yes,
was spitting venom on the ANC. Now, to use this platform on baseless and unfounded allegations, which to me are of a serious nature, especially when you label the ANC as a terrorist organization. That alone to me says that this chap, Peter, is actually, in my own view, a product of the apartheid system. He sounds like a former informer. He was sort of a pimpy. That is why he's actually embracing P.W. Botha. How could you on earth come on this platform and embrace P.W. Botha, whose hands are actually full of the blood of the innocent people? Secondly, the fact that people are unable to distinguish from an individual and the brand ANC is a problem. You know, for a typical example, if a CEO of Toyota is actually faltering, he accepts the fall in defense of the brand Toyota.
Yeah.
Now, we must separate between an individual who's doing wrong in the ANC and leave the brand ANC. So I'm trying to say, lastly, this chap is very dangerous, and if you don't correct him, call him back. He must come and withdraw that malicious statement.
So,
we
Phumzile,
belong to the ANC.
Phumzile, if we follow your example of talking about if the CEO of Toyota messes up, that CEO will take accountability. That if we extend that to the political space, if it's the leader of the ANC messing up, can't the ANC be held accountable collectively for failing to correct their leader?
No, Thulas.
It can't be.
Thulas, no. No. The brand ANC is the brand ANC. If Phumzile is messing up in the ANC, then the ANC brand must deal with Phumzile because he might have contravened policies and constitution of the ANC. So that is the point I'm trying to actually escalate here this morning.
Phumzile, thank you for that. Let me move on quickly to John in Durban. Good morning to you, John. Also on the same issue.
Good morning, Thulasizwe and the SFM listeners. Thulasizwe, I find it very hard for us as a South African to try and defend something that is undefendable. ANC on the first election got 90% or more than 90%.
No, not
through
really.
The people that they were all behind the ANC because they knew the struggle which were embarked on to
not quibbling with you, but technically the numbers were not around that. But it's fine. Continue to make the point. They did get a significant majority.
Yes, but the last election, I think they got about 40% or less.
Yes.
And then now they have used the other party. They collaborate with the other party to stay in the government because the people of South Africa, they disappointed about what they're doing. So they want to stay in power just to fit their family. Now these guys they are arguing, as they say, ANC is done all the good things. Only when you're blind that you cannot see that ANC he lost the direction, and the people of South Africa did not do anything. The people even before the new government, the apartheid government, we were oppressed and a victim of the circumstances of the day. But today we went even more deeper, sink on the suffering, while the black government is running the country.
All right.
So they must not come here and say we are using our cell phone because of the ANC to criticize the ANC.
Yeah.
ANC is doing nothing. You see next election, you see what's going to happen.
All right,
the ANC is going out of the power because it failed to rescue the people of the South Africa.
John,
we are suffering even in the labor department.
John, thank you, John. I've got to leave it there. I've got to take a traffic update. That's John in Durban there. We'll try and make more time towards the end of the show to take one or two of your calls as well.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just a reminder, we have confirmed this morning with the Tshwane Metro Police Department, and they've confirmed with the Sanrail contractors that the N1 South at Linwood, that was scheduled to be closed again today, is going to stay open. That's a big job that caused 2-hour delays yesterday. Coming into the closed-off area has now been postponed, cancelled to perhaps a future date, which makes sense. You don't want to put people through that twice in a row. Very heavy around the Sandton approach on the Mike 1, coming from Woodmead or coming up from the Melrose area. Although the highway is starting to ease off, there are some delays as you turn in on Sandton Drive. So coming through from the Weinberg side, through Catherine Street, through the non-operational traffic lights, that's heavy. And there is a little bit of a backlog still on the Mike 1 North, getting up and off at Grayston. Also crash on Ravonia Road at South Road. So if you're coming through Morningside into Sandton, that's quite busy as well. Our big story for Gauteng motorists, the R59, that is still worth avoiding. It's crazily backed up this morning as you come from Mayet and up into the Randvale area. Big queues towards the R550 Heidelberg Road exit. Durban, traffic volumes dropped off the cliff a little bit earlier this morning. It's not a bad run through the central Durban area. If you're on your way out towards Pietermaritzburg, the usual breakdown at Cliffdale causing a delay from Keyridge, and Cape Town having a pretty good run through the traffic as well in terms of much lighter volumes noticeable this morning. It is wet though, so please keep road safety top of mind. Marine Drive looks okay. The lights this morning at Sunset Beach and Dolphin Beach are working. They have a habit of working in the morning and then going down in the afternoon. So it's always a good idea. If you're coming out of the city centre this afternoon's drive time, just have a check on your apps of what's happening on Marine Drive. You don't want to get caught in the middle of that. It can get particularly heavy. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
They all believe they will be crowned champions, but gold medallions are reserved for the best of them all. It is the incredible clash of the 12 African women's national teams. Catch all the 24 matches of the Cap Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 from 5 to 26 July 2025 on SABC Plus, S3, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, under the banner of the Fantuka of Living Legends Recognition Series, will host a tribute concert in honor of Mama Abigail Gubega, celebrating her 68 years of excellence in the South African music industry. It's taking place on Saturday, the 5th of July, 2025, at 6 p.m. at the State Theatre in Pretoria, featuring over 25 legendary performers such as Yvonne Chaka Chaka, Faith Kekana, Mandisa Dlanga, Khanyo Maphumulo, Sipho Hotsticks Mabuse, Makoi Mkhobata, among others. Tickets are available at Web Tickets and Pick and Pay. Get yours today. The Abigail Gupega tribute concert is supported by SABC Radio.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
Let's end off with an update on the hearings, the Judicial Conduct Tribunal. Eastern Cape Judge President Selbin Benenge's legal representatives have begun presenting his side of the story in that Judicial Conduct Tribunal hearing into sexual harassment allegations against him. They've started by calling a judge's secretary, Zinhle Nqayi, who has testified about several incidents that her colleague and Mbenenge's accuser, Andiswa Mengo, alleged to have happened within or near the judge president's chambers in the High Court. Watching all of that for us, SABC News reporter Kenny Mapanga joins us now. Good morning to you, Kenny. Just an update then. Let's start with the decision around whether or not legal representatives of Andiswa Mengo will get an opportunity to cross-examine Judge President Selbin Benenge. That has not gone their way. Tell us why.
Indeed, good morning to you, Tulas, and to the listeners. Well, essentially, this is not a court of law. This is a fact-finding body that is governed by the JSC Act and the rules of the tribunal. Now, because of that, the common practice is that when a respondent gives their version of events or they call any of their particular witnesses, they are cross-examined by the evidence leader, not cross-examined by the evidence leader plus the counsel of the complainant. So because the legislation doesn't accommodate such a request, the tribunal couldn't grant Andiswa Mengo's counsel the opportunity to cross-examine the respondent, that is the Judge President Selbin Benenge. Now, what they did allow is an allowance for the counsel to consult with the evidence leader should they feel that there are areas that they would like to traverse further. Then they get an opportunity to consult through her, and then she will deliver that during cross-examination. Yeah.
And in that process, we're getting a sense of the witnesses that are going to be called to testify to support his side of the story. And already we've heard from the first one.
Yeah, the first witness is his, what would have been his judge's secretary at the time of these allegations. And it's clear that he's dealing with the in-person interactions that are in dispute. You may remember that Chambers incident where Andiswa Mengo testified that she allegedly was called to the chambers of the judge president, and he allegedly requested her to perform an act of a sexual nature. Now, in the absence of CCTV footage, it is her word against his regarding what happened there. Zinhle Nqayi is the first witness, and she's giving evidence that is contrary to what Andiswa Mengo would have stated, not explicitly to us, but she is giving evidence that creates the impression that on that afternoon that Andiswa Mengo alleges this incident took place, that the judge president was so occupied and busy that it minimizes the possibility of such an incident having taken place during November of 2022 in the judge president's chambers. It now leaves the tribunal with two versions, and only one can be true, and they'll be able to test that version through cross-examination. It's going to be quite the task for advocates to escape as the evidence leader to try and discredit Zinhle Nqayi's version, because they actually don't have anything other than the word of Andiswa Mengo or the judge president, as the CCTV footage could not be retrieved for that particular day to support the version of Andiswa Mengo.
Lastly, Kenny, and very briefly, we're also getting a glimpse into the interpersonal relations and how they interacted among themselves as colleagues, including interactions with the judge president, such as the words and names that were used to refer to staff in that office.
So we have heard from Andiswa Mengo that the manner in which the judge's secretaries dealt with the judge president or the judges in the Eastern Cape Division of the High Court was quite different to what the expectation might be in a workplace environment, referring to judges as mothers and fathers, the judge president casually joking around with the judge's secretary. That's the evidence we're hearing now, that it was just a different dynamic than what one would expect in a workplace environment such as this. Perhaps the difficulty with that, Tulas, is is that the judiciary actually hasn't had a policy of this nature to guide them in the workplace. It only came into fruition just recently through the Chief Justice Mandela Maya. So unfortunately, the tricky area here is that particular area, that is sexual harassment in the workplace, hasn't had that formal guidance in the court, and we're seeing how that has manifested in the dynamics in the Eastern Cape Division of the High Court.
Kenny, thank you for that. That's Kenny Mapanga. Follow her reporting throughout the day on SABC News on that tribunal. And that's it, really. That's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief. Don't go anywhere. The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana is up next here on SAFM after the news. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, and you've been briefed.
In our top stories, Kwadokuza mayor and deputy recalled amid maladministration allegations and suspects accused of killing a traditional healer back in court. Good morning. The ANC KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Task Team has recalled the mayor and deputy mayor of Kwadokuza municipality. Mayor Alingiti and his deputy Scelin Jabulo Cele were